Welcome back to the It Girl Playbook. We have the Playbook Mini, which was a small compilation of some of the first It Girls that we've ever explored, a collection of mindsets and lessons that have made them so incredibly magnetic. Because by better understanding their allure, we can be inspired to adopt some of their most attractive qualities and values into our lives so that we can level up as well. This is the ultimate playbook. Feel free to listen to it as part of your morning getting readies for a hot girl walk, on a long drive, or even as part of your nighttime routine to fall asleep to. I hope you enjoy.
If you know about Liz's upbringing, you know that she grew up as a people pleaser. She had a rough childhood and grew up in a toxic household with a father that was abusive. And it wasn't until she decided to become selfish with her time and her energy, that she completely changed her life. She mentioned being selfish with her space when she moved out so that her abusive father was no longer in the picture. She is also very selective on who she chooses to surround herself with, meaning whether it be her partner or even the type of friends that she chooses to hang out with. She is selfish with her energy as she pours into herself to heal from the past and to move on, and she reads and learns and does self-care and pushes her own boundaries, like jumping off of a plane when she is afraid of heights.
And he pushes you on two because people grab on three. And you fall out of the airplane, and in 1 second, you realize that it's the most blissful experience of your life.
To level up her mindset and her life. And so instead of spending time wondering why she had to grow up like that, she spent her time being more productive in bettering herself instead. And now that she is as successful as she is, living a happy life, looking the way that she wants, making the money and living the lifestyle that she wants, she is able to not only take care of herself, but she is also able to help take care of her mom and explore different ventures like starting a podcast with her sister and help her become successful as well. Because Liz was so selfish, it saves not only her life, but it also influenced the people around her as well. It's a little ironic that some of the most selfish people are also some of the most selfless. Because Liz poured into her own cup, she now has so much overflowing that she is able to pour into the cups of the people around her that she cares about. Many people have a negative perspective about being selfish. They see it as disregarding others and maybe even stepping on other people and their needs in order to get what you want. However, being selfish, it simply means that you are prioritizing your own needs. And this could simply mean that if someone comes to you and asks you for help, you don't immediately drop what you're doing to go and help them. You can say, hey, I'm happy to help, but after I finish what I'm doing first. Because here's the thing, if you're always out there prioritizing others, who's going to prioritize you? Everyone grew up in different environments, influenced by different cultures. They were taught different values, but the one thing that we all have in common is that everyone gets the same 24 hours. You will not have the time to level up your life if you're spending all of your time helping everyone else level up their lives. Unlike money, where you can always earn back the money that you spent, you cannot get back the time that you already spent. Too many of us waste our time on people in situations that don't serve us. Like we have all the time in the world when that's not the case. Be selfish with your time because it is precious, and make sure to use it in ways that benefit you. Instead of wasting it on others, use it to level up your own life. Instead of crying over a guy that didn't text you back, take yourself on a date and treat yourself, make yourself happy. Instead of getting upset over a job that you didn't get that couldn't see your value, look for another or start your own business. Instead of playing victims, take responsibility and start becoming the hero of your own story. You're the one that ultimately influences your life the most. Nobody is coming to save you. No one is obligated to save you, especially if you don't help yourself first. Like Liz, you may not have had the best start in life, and you may not have been dealt the best hand in life. But the thing is, your trauma is not your fault. Your pain and your hurt is not your fault, because we have no control over the environment that we are born in. But your healing and living a life that you find fulfilling and happy is your responsibility. responsibility. Yes, people may call you selfish, but those who try to make you feel bad for prioritizing your own needs and try to make you out as this villain are also the same ones counting on your emotional guilt to benefit from you. So don't let them have it. Be selfish enough to want to change your life, and then be selfish enough to go and make that happen for yourself. If you're unfamiliar with Alexa Demie, she is well known for her role as Maddie in the show Euphoria. And unlike many other celebrities, there is something so mysterious about Alexa Demie. There is little to no information about her. Alexa has 22 posts on her Instagram as of date. She has a very minimal acting resume, and she was notoriously known for concealing her real age. Yet at the same time, she seemed to be everywhere, as she was seen getting photographed with the Hadids, the Jenners, and Hailey Bieber. This makes people even more curious because unlike the A-list celebrities that she is seen with, who have pretty much their entire life on social media and on different reality shows and interviews, Alexa is quite the opposite. Her mystique and her low-key approach have actually made her even more alluring. If you tell everyone everything about you, then there's nothing left to learn more about you. Privacy will not only give you peace, but it can actually make you more magnetic because you are so mysterious and it makes people so curious about you. It's difficult and unfair to compare different people who have different goals and lifestyle preferences, but if we do compare Alexa to a lot of her co-stars in Euphoria, they seem to be doing a lot better than her. They're rising in fame, they're getting booked out, they're putting a lot of effort into PR, and as a result, they're probably making a lot more money because of that. And although we don't know how that will go in the future because we really don't know what will hold for us in the future, right? We can take a look at what has happened in the past. If we take a look at different celebrities who seem to have gotten famous so fast, we start to notice a pattern. Absolutely no hate, but we can take a look at Addison Rae, right, as a quick example. She blew up on TikTok and she began hanging out with the Kardashians. She got casted in a movie. She appeared on many interviews and even started her own beauty brand and a fragrance line, right? She seemed to be doing so well, but after a while, people seemed to have forgotten about her. And I remember seeing a TikTok where this mom showed her teen a video of Addison Rae, and the teen was like, "Who's that?" They couldn't even recognize her anymore. They don't remember her anymore. And another example is Jennifer Lawrence. At one point, she seemed to be America's sweetheart. After her huge success with, the Hunger Games, she had so many opportunities and rose to fame really quickly. She shared a lot about her life, and initially people loved her for it and found that she is not only talented as an actor, but she is also so relatable as an individual, until it seemed like the public and the media seemed to have gotten tired of her. Even Jennifer herself said in an interview, she said, "I think people had just gotten sick of me." If we take a deeper look into today's culture, the rise of social media, and with that, cancel culture, we often see how many influencers and celebrities rising to fame, and then at some point of sharing too much online with their fans, getting in trouble or getting canceled. However, this is nearly impossible for a celebrity like Alexa Demie, who doesn't share too much to the public. The public has literally nothing to cancel her for because she doesn't share anything about her life. She's so private. At the end of the day, it is your life and you can do and share what you're comfortable with. But just keep in mind that saturation is real, even when you look at food, right? Even if it is your favorite snack or your favorite dish, if you have it every meal and every day, it will start to lose its appeal, and soon even you might start to get sick of it. In a day and age where a lot of people are online sharing about their lives, not even for a personal entertainment standpoint, because some people actually have their businesses online and they make their income that way. So I understand the need to share and be relatable. However, the point of today's episode is to kind of reassure you that you don't need to feel like you need to share everything about yourself if you don't want to. In fact, embracing privacy to keep some mystique, it can actually enhance your allure and work in your favor and make people more eager to know more about you, and it keeps people intrigued for longer.
Jennie's mindset can be simply stated as this: it's me before you. Although she never explicitly says this, you can see the pattern from her actions that she will always prioritize herself and will always choose to prioritize herself. Some may call her selfish, but many will agree that it's a form of self-respect and a form of self-love. You see this throughout her career, where she consistently tries her best, obviously without overstepping anyone. I feel like Jennie's dating life is a perfect example of this. Many idols will refuse to date because in this industry, the idol being single is a more profitable image, and record labels believe that being in a relationship will just be a unnecessary distraction. Although mostly speculated, Jennie has been rumored to be dating a few people throughout her career, which is very rare but significant because it seems to me at least that she is prioritizing her own happiness. It seems to be the norm in this industry to prioritize everyone else's happiness, and you should just be grateful for that. I think what Jennie did was very brave in the sense that she did not sacrifice this aspect of her life where she can date and have a chance to find her happiness in this industry where everyone is criticizing her. Because she did receive a lot of backlash whenever there were dating rumors. There was also an incident where she was being called lazy a lot because it seemed like she wasn't giving her full effort into her concert performances, and that resulted in a lot of backlash as well. But during this time, it was found out that she was dealing with an ankle injury, and so rather than just quote-unquote pushing through her injury, which probably would have made it worse and risk permanently damaging her health and body and therefore possibly her career, she still pushed through in the sense that she still performed, but she prioritized her body so that it could recover and heal more quickly. And when it did, you can see her giving her all into future performances, and she is now on to doing so many incredible things like modeling, walking a runway, becoming CEO, and so many ventures that she probably couldn't have done, or it would have been stalled if she didn't take care of her health first. And so you see this consistent theme of it's me before you. She's not hurting anyone by making her happiness and her health a priority. And more importantly, she is not putting the opinions of others on a pedestal and blindly following them. Not all, but there are definitely some record labels and even some fans who may feel entitled that an idol should dedicate their life to the label who is establishing their career and to fans who are supporting them. I think because she cannot fully be controlled in that aspect, it garnered a lot of hate around her, but there is an undertone of respect that everyone seems to develop. We teach people how to treat us, and so when you prioritize yourself, you show to others that you value yourself, and as a result, others will value and respect you as well. If you know anything about Jennie's upbringing, she was born into a wealthy family, and I think that has some influence on how she is able to develop this kind of mindset. There are so many idols who choose to become idols to become rich and famous, and their source of income is on the line. They have families back at home who need their help and support, and as a result, they have this additional pressure to comply, even if it is something that they aren't too happy with. Jennie, I feel like, didn't have as much pressure because she came from a wealthier background and she did not have this additional pressure, which gave her more freedom to do what she wanted and that would benefit her happiness and well-being, while of course not harming others along the way. And I think this is very important to mention because it really highlights the importance of having a strong foundation so that others people's opinions don't easily affect you. If you take care of yourself and if you pour into yourself and someone calls you ugly, who cares? That is their opinion of you, and while you may not be their type, you're someone else's dream girl. If you study and get good grades, have a career that you're proud of, are you really going to let someone who is unhappy with their own life tell you that you're stupid and let that affect you? No, I'd feel bad because I'm aware enough to understand that they're possibly just projecting on you. And I know that we used Jennie's material background as an example, But building your own foundation can come in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. It can mean that you have your own source of income, so even if you do find a partner that provides for you, you are not fully financially dependent on him. It can mean that you are so safe and secure with yourself, emotionally and mentally, so that you are not dependent on someone else to feel validated. There is a difference between being supportive and being dependent. And I think that is why it's so important for us to focus on our self-improvement, to work on ourselves so that we can give to ourselves what we crave so bad from others. When you do that, you will begin to attract exactly what it is that you want in a healthier and more abundant way. Everyone needs to prioritize yourself, even if you have the most giving heart, because you literally cannot give anything when you have nothing, right?
If you don't know who Song Jia is, she was a contestant on the Korean reality dating show called Singles Inferno. Jia gained a lot of popularity in general from that show, but within the show, she was also one of the most popular female contestants among men. She had multiple admirers from the start of the show and had not one, not two, but three men who wanted to be with her, in which she had to choose from at the end of the show. And throughout her time in Singles Inferno, you really see how Gia plays out that popular saying, "I don't chase, I attract." Rather than using her time to chase the men on the show, she uses her energy to focus on herself, whether it was doing her makeup, styling her hair, or just having fun building friendships with the other female contestants. Personally, I found it so iconic that she would rather spend her time taking afternoon naps so that she could be well rested.
쥐어 있어?
응, 나갈까?
네. 안녕?
잠들었어.
Than to spend her time to pull one of the many guys that were interested in her for a chat, which is, very common given the environment that they were in and the fact that they were on a dating reality show. Although she does spend her time taking care of herself and just being a girl's girl, she does open herself up to the men who are interested in her, and as a result, she is always attracting rather than chasing. And because she focuses that time and energy into herself and taking care of herself, you often found that the guys interested in her had to not only compete among themselves to win her over, but they were also competing with Gia herself and the standards in which she sets in treating herself, which really shines light on the importance of self-love. Valuing yourself and loving yourself isn't just a personal benefit or a personal preference, it's a requirement because it's a lesson to the world on how to value us and how to treat us in return. And we see this playing out when one of the male contestants, in order to spend more time with Gia, he was fitting himself into her lifestyle. Gia takes her time making herself look good, whether it was doing her makeup, choosing her outfit, or styling her hair. And so, in order to spend more time with Gia, he had to make himself useful to her by helping her style her hair, which leads us to our next point. Don't change up your lifestyle for a man. I feel like we see this a lot with people and with girls, especially after catching feelings for someone, or we see that they start to lose their sense of identity and they stop investing in their hobbies and stop investing in her friendships after they get into a relationship, which I guess is another layer of self-love, right? Loving yourself so much that you don't compromise yourself and your lifestyle for anyone. Although it was subtle in the show, you see how Gia always sticks to what she wants to do, whether it's taking care of her looks, investing in her female friendships, or taking naps. She uses her time well to pour into her own cup, and she never compromises on that. You can clearly see how she values herself and the level of care she has to treat herself and the words she chooses to speak about herself. She is iconic for saying how God created her with care, and that is something that we can all adopt as well. Instead of putting others on a pedestal, which forces them to look down on us, we need to practice putting ourselves on a pedestal. At the end of the day, the way we teach others to treat us is through example, and it's by the way we treat ourselves. And by taking care of ourselves, we show others how much we actually value ourselves and therefore teaches others how to value us as well. Because how can you expect others to like you when you don't even like yourself? When we love ourselves so much, like Gia, everyone else will follow.
Wonyoung is a popular idol in the K-pop industry, not only in Korea, but also on an international scale as well. She is known for her talent and obvious visuals. She is so gorgeous, as well as her very graceful confidence. And one thing you come to admire about her as a person is that she is committed to leveling up. She is someone who would rather go through short-term discomfort for the long-term benefit. She expects the best for herself and isn't afraid to work hard for it. There is this clip where she mentioned that she was a straight-A student and she said, yes, studying sucks, but failing sucks more.
시험 준비하는 거 힘든 거과 시험이 내 마음에 안 드는 성적이 나왔던 것 둘 중에 뭐가 더 싫으세요? 저는 제 마음에 안 드는 성적이 나온 게 더 싫을 것 같아요. 그러니까 너무 힘들겠지만 이 시간을 좀 더 현명하게 시간을 효율적으로 잘 써서 보란듯이 열심히 준비하는 거죠. 그러니까 주어진 거에 후회하지 않도록 열심히 하는 게 전 제일 중요할 것 같은데요.
Which brings us to the lesson to this episode. Winning sucks, but losing sucks more. Wonyoung understands that winning is hard, but losing is not an option. And that is a mindset to be admired. Because the reality is leveling up is hard. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of commitment. And I feel like sometimes people really underestimate that dedication and that commitment. You say, oh, this guy is naturally fit and that girl is naturally pretty, but what you don't see is that guy going to the gym every single day and making sure he sticks to a strict diet to get to where he is now. You don't see the girl spending hours researching and doing beauty routines and paying to have people literally electrocute her face so that she is less hairy and her skin is more smooth. A lot of us applaud people for the achievements when we don't realize what it took for them to get to where they are. The effort and discipline it takes to achieve the success that you have, however you define it, with money, grades, looks, fame, beauty, intelligence, or whatever it may be, it requires effort. And the more consistent you show up for yourself to put in those efforts, the more progress you will see yourself making and the more confident you will become in yourself because you see yourself committing to the promises that you make to yourself. And this confidence speaks levels because it comes from within, and this confidence is so magnetic and, in my opinion, so classy. And Wonyoung is disciplined in that regard, and I think that is what contributes to her confidence, which comes off so gracefully. There are so many people who say that they are going to eat healthier and then order junk food the exact same night. They say that this is their year and that they're going to be rich and successful and have all this money, but then they push off looking for that career that aligns with that, or put off their business or side hustle that is going to bring in that extra income, or taking the classes that is needed to level up their career, and then binge watch Netflix instead. You'll say, oh, I'll just start next Monday, and then Monday comes around and then the same thing happens. You'll say, I'll just start till next Monday, I'll just wait till next Monday, and before you know it, 14 Mondays have passed. You're still stuck in the same place in that same cycle. How do you expect to trust yourself when you can't even follow through on your own promises? Imagine the level of trust that you have in yourself when you say that you're going to do something and you do it. Wonyoung's beauty, her talent, and her accomplishments are all evidence of the work that she has put in to create a life that she is proud of. She doesn't go on TV and talks about how confident she is, but you can just tell by the way that she acts and the way that she carries herself how much confident she is in herself. Confidence is not loud, it is in the little details. And one thing that I come to really admire about her is that she sets really firm boundaries and she doesn't let anyone, not even herself, cause her to deviate from it. I feel like a lot of idols are quick to give into fans because at the end of the day, given their career, the support from fans are a source of income for them. But Wonyoung is different. Unfortunately, there was an incident where she had a fan who was stalking her, right? But rather than giving this fan a slap on the wrist and just dismissing it, no, Wonyoung sued her. And many people thought that that was not okay because it was a fan and that the fan did it out of love and support for Wonyoung, but this is someone who compromised her safety. And you see this recurring theme of Wonyoung sacrificing short-term discomfort in the form of receiving hate and having to deal with a literal stalker for the long-term gains in the form of her safety, admiration from other idols who may not have the courage to do the same thing, and respect from fans who truly love her and respect her well-being, which is something that I kind of want to touch on as well. If someone is hurting you, calling you names, or literally making you feel unsafe or so controlled to the point that you feel like you cannot breathe in the name of love, they don't love you. They love that they have the power over you and that they can control you. Don't ever mistake in that. If someone else does not love you, then you need to love yourself enough to remove yourself from the situation, or else there is a chance that there will be no you anymore. This is something that I personally really admire about Wonyoung as well. She takes the action necessary to make sure that she can focus on winning, to live the life that she knows she deserves and that she is proud of. She's not going to let anyone compromise that. She knows that winning is hard, but for her, failing is even harder. And I think that is a mindset that I personally am going to start implementing as well, because that is so admirable. True love, and especially when it comes to self-love, I feel like is wanting the best for yourself and then taking it a step further and putting in the efforts needed to become that highest version of yourself. I hope today's lesson inspires you to start taking action on the goals that you set for yourself, because you can never win if you never start, right?
Lori Harvey said that the best advice that she has ever gotten was from her dad, who said, "Remember that you are always the prize."
Well, I try to constantly remind her that she's the prize. No guy is the prize. It's a million of them. It's one of you. Don't ever think that the guy is the prize, because he ain't. Because you're a woman, and you can do something that none of them can do.
Many women forget that just by being a woman, you are the prize. Historically and evolutionarily, men have always been the hunters and women have always been the prize. Even in the animal kingdom, you see this biology of male animals being the hunters and presenting themselves and his resources to the females to prove to her that he can be a suitable mate that can protect and provide. And so if even animals know this, baby girl, what is your excuse? If you forget that you are the prize, then start realizing your worth now. Allow yourself to be chased and allow yourself to receive nice things, thoughtful gestures, and romantic, chivalrous acts of kindness, okay? Never put yourself in a situation where you feel like you need to prove yourself and your worth to a guy. Because what do you mean, what do you have to offer? What do you bring to the table? Yes, there are a lot of boys out there nowadays who think this way, and they cannot be in their masculine and therefore they are in their survival mode. But you also have responsibility in this if you continue to entertain this nonsense, okay? This isn't about equality and it isn't about you as a woman feeling entitled. Men and women inherently are different. The values and qualities in which they bring into a relationship, into a partnership is different. The value is equal, but the value itself is different, and different is not bad. Let's take this podcast for an example, right? If I know I'm good at writing and producing content and I am looking for a business partner, I will not look for someone with the same set of skills as me. I will probably look for someone with skills that are complementary to mine. And therefore, when we have this partnership and together we can run this podcast more successfully, the value that we bring to the table is equal, but they are not the same. This is the same in a relationship. If everyone brings the same thing, then you are simply just competing with each other. Is that a relationship that you really want to be in? That's why there is that saying that relationships should be between people who complete each other. They don't compete. Don't compromise on your values, your happiness, your peace, and don't settle for less than what you know you deserve. If you take a look into Lori Harvey's dating patterns, she has always dated men who could benefit her in some way somehow, whether it is resources, status, intelligence, fame, or someone that spoils her and treats her like a queen. And it seems like many people were upset when she broke up with Michael B. Jordan, who wanted to settle down with her, but marriage was just something that wasn't on her mind at the time, which brings us back to not compromising on your values, right? This is something I practice as well. I know that I want to have kids and I want to have a family in the future. So no matter how much I like a guy and how much he spoils me and treats me right, I'm still going to walk away from the situation if he is someone that doesn't want kids. Not everyone has to agree with why you choose to stay in a relationship or not, because at the end of the day, the relationship is yours and the only person involved is you and the person you choose to be with. The most important factor is whether or not the dynamic serves you and aligns with the fact that you are the prize. Don't be afraid to put yourself on a pedestal and walk away from a situation if it is no longer serving you. When Marjorie and Steve Harvey first met, he was still an up and coming comedian. Rather than waiting for him to quote unquote make it, they both went on to marry different people. And although both of their marriages didn't work out, they chose what was best for them at that time. Steve Harvey told the story of how after his divorce with his first wife, he was at a casino when he received a call from Marjorie. So, of course, because he was still interested in her and never really forgot about her, he asked Marjorie how she and her quote-unquote punk-ass husband was doing. Marjorie responded by telling him that she was divorced and no longer was with him anymore. And Steve, he caught a flight the very next day to go and see her.
Marjorie, we actually dated 25 years ago, but I was becoming homeless, and so we only dated for a year, and I didn't have the money, so I never drove back to see her. The first night I met her was at a comedy club. She walked into the comedy club late on the front row. She was late. She walked in. I'd never seen nobody look like that to me. The first word I said to Marjorie was, "Lady, I don't know who you are." I stopped the show. I said, "I don't know who you are, but I'm gonna marry you one day." That was the very first word I said to her. That was in 1987 when I first met her. We dated till like 89. I was homeless. I got the show on the Apollo in 91. I made some money. It was too late. She had got married. And I got married. Then I got a divorce in 2005 and was hustling. I was out in Vegas. My bodyguard called one of her girlfriends, been looking for her. Gave me the phone while I was gambling. He said, "Hey, man, I got somebody I want to talk to." I said, "Man, I'm gambling, man. You know I'm pulling." I went to Vegas just to forget the shit I was going through. He gave me the phone. I said, "Yeah." She said, "Boy, what you want?" And it was Marjorie. And I knew her voice. I said, "Is this Marjorie?" She said, "Yeah." So the first thing I said was, "How your punk ass husband doing?" But I knew she had got married. She said, "You still crazy." She said, "Boy, I've been divorced for 4 years." Got on a private jet the next day, flew to Memphis, had lunch with her. Been with her ever since. Never let her go.
Which comes to show that if it's meant to be, then it will be. They found their way back together and now they have a beautiful marriage. And Steve Harvey, who we all know now is very successful, is now able to better provide for Marjorie and be the man for his family. And he takes a lot of pride in that and has earned the respect of many men and women. Steve Harvey is known for providing a lot of really good dating advice, and so he leads by example, which gives him the credibility to become as successful as he is in this field. In a way, Marjorie has allowed him to become even more successful, but one thing to note is that she did not build with him. He was already successful when they got back together, and after getting back together, Marjorie inspired him to become even more successful, both personally and professionally. And that's a lesson to take away, which is to never wait on a man and never help him build. Can it work out? Probably, as there are always exceptions. For many cases, though, it's an outcome similar to that of Jeff Bezos. His ex-wife, Mackenzie, helped him build Amazon to what it was at, and she's an incredibly beautiful and smart woman, but where did that lead her? Helping him build Amazon. A divorce, and for him to get with a younger woman who he now creates statues of on his boat. And girl, even Bill Gates left his wife literally at the age that he is now. You may think that because Marjorie didn't help a man build, that she is a gold digger. But what woman, and especially a mother, doesn't want to be with an established man who can provide both physical security and financial stability for her family and her kids. If wanting the best for yourself and your current or future family makes you a gold digger, then girl, I'd be a proud gold digger. And fortunately, no matter how successful I am, I will never stop being a gold digger. And another story worth sharing was one before their marriage. When they first got back together and was still dating, Steve told the story of how he had gotten a call from another girl, and he didn't think much into it because it was something like 3 a.m. already, and it seemed like Marjorie was still asleep. He didn't think that she heard anything, so Steve got back into bed and woke up just moments later to Marjorie packing her things and getting ready to leave. She confronted him by saying that she wasn't interested in being with him while he was still entertaining other people. If he decided that he wanted to be in her life, he would know where to find her back at home. And you may be thinking, well, how did Steve Harvey respond? Well, Steve broke his phone right in front of her. He split it in half because back then to lose. And the story really highlights Marjorie's sense of self-worth, but also independence. She lets it be known that she is with him not because she needs him, but because she is choosing to. And she did that by letting him know that she can and will walk away if he doesn't value her, if he doesn't see her worth. And she communicates not only with her words, but also through her actions that she is not interested in being with someone that only sees her as an option and cannot choose her and commit to her. She didn't force him to be exclusive with her. She simply communicated her needs and showed what she was thinking through her actions, that if he could not provide that, then she is out. And if he wants to see other people, then he is free to do so just without her, without stringing her along. Just like you don't wait on a man to get his shit together, don't wait on a man to change, and especially don't wait on a man to choose you. If he wants to be with you, he will be with you. It's as simple as that. Don't be afraid to leave a situation that doesn't serve you. It's okay to prioritize your self-interest.
I feel like Angelina Jolie is quite complicated to analyze. It's very difficult to analyze and pinpoint what it is that makes her so magnetic, but the more complicated it got, I came to realize that maybe that's just it. Complicated isn't always bad. You can see it that way, absolutely, but you can also view that as depth and character. Angelina's magnetic presence is rooted in an aura that combines mystery with a sense of purpose. She reveals only what is necessary, allowing her to remain intriguing and memorable, but although she does not say much, we feel like we know a lot based off of her actions. It's very consistent, and so we can come to a mutual agreement that she values her children and she likes to help people through her humanitarian efforts. And I think this comes to show how cultivating a bit of mystery, whether intentionally or unintentionally, can really work in your favor. For example, this past year, I have been a lot more private with my goals. I didn't even tell my family that I was doing YouTube until I was close to like 100,000 subscribers, which was, I don't know, like a week or two ago. And I knew if I prematurely tell people these goals, there is that possibility that they will say, oh, that's just silly. Why are you doing this? And I didn't want that to negatively influence something that I was genuinely passionate about. So although my intentions were simply just to protect my ambitions until I felt like it was a little bit more established, the byproduct of this was this air of curiosity as to what I was constantly doing, typing away so fiercely and passionately on my keyboard. And the thing about this, when you lead with actions and when you lead with results, it feels a lot more impactful. And when you do share it with people, their opinions and even support may feel nice, but you already have that self-confidence and self-assurance that you need to continue pursuing something. Like, you're not reliant on their validation, which holds a lot more value, which kind of leads to our next point. Angelina Jolie's confidence comes from within. It's really unaffected by outside opinions and validation, and it makes her presence feel very grounded and authentic. And so the thing about this, I feel like having reassurance from people and getting validation from others is nice. Absolutely. I love it when I put effort into something I wear and my friends tell me that it looks nice. I love it when I tell my family an achievement and they tell me how proud they are of me. But the thing about this, if you're constantly reliant on other people's approval and validation and reassurance to live your life, what if they don't give it to you? Will you constantly be stuck at the same place every single year? Having support from people around you should add to your life, but you shouldn't be relying on other people's opinion and validation to have permission to live your life and pursue your goals. And when you have that self-confidence that comes from within, it really does influence the way that you carry yourself, which is another thing that I noticed about Angelina Jolie is how she carries herself. A big part of her charm lies in her calm and focused demeanor. She is able to make others feel valued by being fully present and engaged in each interaction. I feel like, especially in this day and age, being able to be fully present and engaging with each other without distractions is so valuable. I remember I was having this conversation with someone the other day because I realized how much I appreciated the fact that we were able to share a meal together, even though sometimes we're quiet, like we don't feel the need to fill the air with constant conversation, and like we were just able to enjoy each other's presence. And it made me think back to how I have dinner with my family. My parents and I can all physically be at the dinner table and enjoying our food, but everyone is on their phone, and so mentally we're all preoccupied and we're all just living in our own little realities. They say that people can forget what you say, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And so when you are present, like Angelina Jolie, in her interactions with people, and you give them your full undivided attention, you make people feel important. And I think that's why her presence is always so memorable on people. And the other factor that I notice is that her allure is very subtle. She says very little, but it speaks volumes through her gaze, her voice, and her body language rather than very exaggerated actions. And I think this comes to show that although people find her extremely seductive, seduction doesn't always have to be bold. Can it be? Absolutely. But I think this is the same as confidence, in the sense that confidence is not loud. You're not yelling and shouting and desperately proving to everyone that you are confident. She seems like she has mastered herself, and the way that she seems like she is always in control of herself, her movements, her speech, her emotions. That's something that we don't give people enough credit to, that in order to really master your reality, you need to master yourself first. And possibly that is what makes her so attractive to people as well, because she really embodies this very quality that people want for themselves. And quite honestly, there's so many qualities that we discuss in this episode that makes Angelina Jolie a huge role model for me. Personally, she really symbolizes that transition of girl to womanhood, and it feels like she really embraces her full range of emotions, strengths, and interests without fear of judgment, and as a result, she always seems so control of herself, which is quite admirable. If you're unfamiliar with who Alison DiLaurentis is, she is one of the most unforgettable characters from the show Pretty Little Liars. She is the quote-unquote queen bee of her friend group and the catalyst behind pretty much everything that went down in the show. Alison is known for her charisma, intelligence, and her ability to leverage secrets like weapons. Love her or hate her, she is someone who leaves a lasting impression, which brings us to the lesson of this show, the power of vulnerability. On the surface, Alison appears to be untouchable. She is charming, she is confident, and always in control. But her true power and allure comes from her deep understanding of human emotions, including her own. Rather than shying away from vulnerability, Alison uses it strategically to connect with others, uncover their secrets, and then just as quickly flips that connection into influence. For example, when she saw that Hannah was struggling with losing weight, Alison opened up about facing similar issues and even shared this quote-unquote secret trick to help her. That moment of connection made Hannah feel closer to Alison than anyone else in that friend group. And this balance between openness and control is what makes her both relatable and untouchable. And this really highlights how important being emotionally intelligent is. Well, Alison sometimes does use it manipulatively, which I don't encourage, but the core lesson remains. Understanding emotions, yours and others, can really strengthen connections and build influence. The goal isn't to exploit vulnerabilities as Alison sometimes does, but to use them to create deeper and more meaningful relationships. I've had this conversation where people tell me about their situation and how they can't do this because of that, or they can't do that because of this. And I appreciate the vulnerability, and being able to be vulnerable is the
big step, but it is also the first step because imagine how powerful you can be if you were to use that to your advantage. Do you know how many people overcome their hardships and then become a beacon of inspiration for others? There's people who overcome poverty, abuse, trauma, and come out the other side better. They use their situations as a source of motivation, and they view other people's success as inspiration. This is how powerful vulnerability really can be if you use it to your advantage, and Alison really understood the power of leveraging vulnerability as a source of power. Although her methods weren't always admirable, her influence speaks volumes about how transformative vulnerability can be when leveraged with intention. And although her methods weren't always admirable, we also can't seem to hate her as a character. Even her friends in her circle had this love-hate relationship with her. If we were to explore this on a deeper level, we begin to notice that Alison's ability to leverage other people's vulnerabilities doesn't stop at connection. It's also a catalyst for growth. Alison has a way of pushing her friends to confront their mistakes and flaws, often in ways that feel uncomfortable or even manipulative. For example, how she pressured Arya to reveal her father's affair, or when she caught Spencer with her sister's fiance and urged her to come clean about this relationship. On the surface, these actions may seem harsh, even cruel if friendships are about unconditional love and support, but on a deeper look, reveals Alison's true intention is that she is forcing her friends to face uncomfortable truths that they would rather avoid. And so in many ways, Alison acts as a mirror, reflecting back to the parts of themselves that they want to hide. She's not the kind of friend who sugarcoats the truth, and instead, she calls you out to your face, but will defend you behind your back. While her approach is far from gentle, it's rooted in pushing her friends to grow, and I think this is why, despite her flaws, Alison remains this friend that they cannot help but love. By making her friends uncomfortable, she forces them to grow, and that's why for all of her flaws, we can't seem to hate her entirely. This duality between love and hate, respect and fear, is what makes Alison so unforgettable. Her friends resent her for using their secrets and vulnerabilities, for putting them in what seems to be impossible situations, and for making them confront truths that they'd rather avoid and sweep under the rug. But deep down, they know Alison is right. Arya's mom deserved to know the truth, and Spencer needed to face her mistakes. Alison, for all of her flaws, made them stronger. Sometimes she is hated as a villain, but she is that villain that helps you grow. She is the one who pushed them to be better even when it hurt. And isn't that what true friendship is about? Not just being there for the good times, but helping someone to become the best version of themselves, even when they hate you for it. You don't have to manipulate or confront people the way that Alison does, but honesty, when delivered with care, can be such a powerful tool. There is that question that people ask whether or not the end justifies the means or if the intent justifies the action. You can be honest with those you love and you can still be rude, right? Two things can be true at the same time. This is something that I've had to learn in my own life, especially in my relationship with my dad. He always has my best intention at heart. There's no question about that. And so when he gives me advice and he gives me, a talk, I know that it is rooted from love, but sometimes his delivery just is not the best. I'm not saying that he doesn't need to work on his delivery, just like Alison couldn't have treated her friends better. There's moments where I genuinely get really upset with my dad, just like there are moments where Alison's friends hated her for putting them in what seems to be impossible situations. But I find myself going back to my dad for advice, just like her friends stuck by Alison even at her worst. When someone genuinely wants the best for you, even if their delivery misses the mark, you can still feel it. And so truth, when rooted in love and delivered with care and with respect, is one of the greatest gifts that you can give. And Alison, she understood that better than most. So here is my takeaway. Stay true to your intentions and be honest with the people that you love, even when it is hard. And remember, there is power in vulnerability. It's not about being perfect or always knowing the right thing to say and the right things to do, but it's about using your emotional awareness to connect, to grow, and challenge both yourself and others. Like Alison, you can use vulnerability as a strength and an opportunity to guide others through tough moments and help them become a better version of themselves. Vulnerability isn't a weakness, but rather an incredibly powerful tool if you use it to your advantage. If you don't know who Tam Kaur is, I don't believe you.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Just kidding, but also not really. She is an incredibly popular content creator that is so fascinating to follow. She is incredibly generous and open with her life, which I find so helpful because we are able to witness the exact effects of this mindset that she has, which she outlines in her book and is the lesson I want to highlight in today's episode, which is that buying yourself the damn flowers is the key to creating an abundant life. Now, we don't mean that simply buying yourself some flowers will magically transform your life, but rather it teaches us a larger lesson, which is the reminder that you are the ultimate source of your happiness, your self-worth, and fulfillment. The core of this mindset is about recognizing that you are responsible for your own happiness and your own sense of self-worth. By choosing to quote-unquote buy yourself the flowers, you are stepping into that role of providing love and celebration for yourself rather than waiting for someone else to do it. It's a simple action, but it speaks volumes to a larger commitment to honoring and nurturing yourself. It's saying, hey, I deserve flowers, and buying yourself flowers rather than waiting on someone else to do it. It's saying, hey, I deserve this career. I deserve good grades, and putting in the work to make that happen for yourself. It's saying, hey, I deserve love. I deserve happiness. I deserve respect, and allowing your actions to reflect that rather than waiting around and waiting for someone else to do it. It's a simple action, but it speaks volumes to a larger commitment of honoring and nurturing yourself. In her book, as well as how Tam chooses to intentionally live her life, is a reflection of her commitment to doing things that make you feel valued and happy without relying on external sources. Tam has a beautiful relationship with her boyfriend, but she still also takes herself out on dates, buys herself matcha lattes and flowers simply because she wants to, and makes her happy and is worthy of nice things. Because the truth of the matter is, solely depending on others to provide you that sense of fulfillment, that sense of happiness, is quite a big ask. And why should someone else be responsible for your own happiness when you're not even willing to make yourself happy? Make yourself happy and allow others to add to your life. And this goes both ways. When you meet someone new and they expect you to constantly prioritize their happiness over yours because they can't be happy alone, that's an incredibly massive responsibility. It's not about you not deserving the job. It's not about you not deserving love. It's not about you not deserving happiness and success and whatever it is that you desire to make you feel fulfilled. It's about setting a standard for how you deserve to be treated and showing yourself that same love and kindness that you want from others, because by doing so, you're cultivating a sense of contentment within yourself. Tam's message is ultimately about self-respect and self-value. By quote-unquote buying yourself the flowers, you're setting a standard for how you deserve to be treated by others. This act reinforces the idea that you should show yourself the same love and kindness you might expect from a partner or a friend or any relationship that you have in your life. It's about cultivating inner contentment, which sets the tone for every other relationship and experience in your life. Tam's success in her life, her career, in her relationships and friendships, they didn't happen by accident. Her self-respect and her self-love set a high standard that aligned her with the right people and the right opportunities. She loves herself so much to put the work into developing herself into the best version of herself, the most successful and loving version of herself, and she respects herself so much to not settle for anything less than that. She overcomes the challenges she faces and celebrates herself throughout this journey. By embracing this mindset, you're sending a message to yourself and the world that you're worth celebrating. This type of self-love builds self-respect and creates a ripple effect in terms of improving the way that you interact with others and how they interact with you. When you start treating yourself well, you will naturally feel more confident, which is incredibly empowering because it reinforces that message that your worth isn't dependent on anyone else. It's not about this hyper-independence in the sense that you are the only source of your own happiness and fulfillment. You can't trust anyone and you're all alone. It's more so reinforcing that idea that you ultimately have the power to create a life for yourself and a reality for yourself that is full of happiness and full of love and full of celebration. By buying yourself the flowers means that you are taking charge of your own needs and happiness, which cultivates a sense of responsibility over your own life. You're no longer waiting for validation, which means you are also less likely to settle for less than what you deserve. This mindset really shifts your focus inward and helps you realize that you really hold more power than you realize. By making yourself a priority and empowering yourself to set higher standards and making choices that truly serve you, there's literally no other way than to create an abundant reality for yourself like Tam Kaur. I hope that you buy yourself the damn flowers, however you want to interpret it into your life. And I hope this episode really helps you realize that it all starts with you. You don't need to ask for permission to celebrate the life that you are building for yourself. Before being a Hollywood icon, Marilyn Monroe was the shy and insecure Norma Jean. The stage name and the stage identity and presence was a persona that she made up with the help of her manager for her to step into a role of glam and confidence. A more current example of this as well is Beyonce. Beyonce once said that she herself has a very timid personality. However, when she is on stage, she steps into her alter ego, who she refers to as Sasha Fierce.
Sasha was in full effect. Sasha is my alter ego. And when people see me, sometimes I think that when they meet me and they speak with me, they're expecting Sasha. And I'm really kind of shy, and not really shy, but more reserved and nothing like Sasha. But I guess I wouldn't be very entertaining on the stage. So Sasha comes out and she's fearless. You know, she can do things that I cannot do when I'm in rehearsal. I mean, I can try, but then it just doesn't happen. I can sing notes and sing strong and do all these things that when I'm just by myself, I can't do.
In order to be able to provide and deliver a performance with the confidence and stage presence that she is known for. Whether you refer it to becoming the higher version of yourself or channeling your alter ego, it starts with the mindset. And Marilyn Monroe is the perfect example of someone who created an alter ego and became it. This is a story from someone who once spent the day with Marilyn Monroe. She said, "I'll never forget the day Marilyn and I were walking through New York City, just having a stroll on a nice day. She loved New York because no one bothered her like they did in Hollywood. She could put on her plain Jane clothes and no one would notice her, and she loved that. So, as we're walking through Broadway, she turns to me and says, 'Do you want to see me become her?' And I didn't know what she meant, but I just said, 'Yes.' And then I saw it. I don't know how to explain what she did, but it was so very subtle. But she turned something on within herself that was almost like magic, and suddenly cars were slowing down and people were turning their heads and stopping to stare. They were recognizing that this was Marilyn Monroe, as if she pulled off a mask or something. Even though a second ago nobody noticed her, I have never seen anything like that before. And this story comes to show that Marilyn Monroe is living proof that confidence and self-belief can change your entire reality. When she says, "Do you want to see me become her?" that was evidence that you can literally become anyone you want at any given moment. It's not like she even changed clothes, but it was her aura that just completely changed. This comes to show that you do not have to dramatically change your appearance, spend thousands of dollars on makeup and procedures and quote-unquote aesthetics to do so. If you believe you are a prize and you shift your self-concept, everyone else will see you as one. There are women out there who are literally so gorgeous and could be models if they wanted to be, but they are so insecure and they think that they're ugly. And you know what happens? If you think you're ugly and you believe you're ugly and you tell everyone that you're ugly, sooner or later that projection is going to catch on and others will believe it so. And that is why your own self-belief and your own idea of yourself is so important. And it's not about not embracing who you are and having to create this fake persona that isn't the real you when you're creating an alter ego. Because if you want to be forever shy and be someone who can't even order a meal at a restaurant because you're so timid, by all means embrace that version of you. And I know this kind of contradicts my previous statement of saying how you don't have to dramatically change your appearance, and I still stand by that, but I will say this. I am a big believer that if you don't like yourself, then do something about it. There's so many people who tell you that self-love is embracing who you are, but if you're constantly depressed, you're not healthy, and you have nothing going on for yourself, then embracing and loving that version of you is only going to keep you in the same place. Like, at that point, what is there even to embrace? Self-love isn't about staying the same. If you don't like who you are, change. When I was younger, I was also very timid and very shy. It was literally to a point where I couldn't even introduce myself. I couldn't even introduce my name to a classroom. And I did not like that version of me. And so instead of hating myself, I started becoming more secure with myself so that I could become more confident in myself and therefore be able to have a more outgoing personality. And as a result, it has made me who I am today to be able to record this podcast and be able to actually talk to people, connect with people, make friends, and date people. If I were to listen to the people telling me to just embrace myself, I would have probably hate myself even more. And many of us, like ourselves, we create an alter ego that represents a higher version of ourselves that could benefit us some way, somehow. It's not about hating the current version of yourself. In fact, it's the exact opposite. You create alter egos because you love yourself so much that you want to be better and want the best for yourself. And so you leverage your alter ego to allow you to step into this higher version of yourself and become this better version of yourself. And so I encourage and invite you to create an alter ego, that highest version of yourself or that self-concept of yourself that makes you feel confident, and you can begin living as that person anytime you want. To this day, Cleopatra is still remembered not only as a leader, but a woman who really leverages her femininity, intelligence, and seduction to lead her nation and protect her people. She lives up to her reputation as one of the most iconic femme fatale. Her aura was one of mystery, strength, and allure. As a female leader that was needed to lead her people, she often resorted to the strategic use of seduction. She charmed men and used their power to fight her wars. After being dethroned by her brother, Cleopatra had the goal to regain her throne. She needed the support of a powerful ally, and she had set her eyes on Julius Caesar. Cleopatra famously had herself rolled up in a carpet and delivered to Caesar's private chambers. This bold move was able to ensure a private interaction with Julius Caesar, bypassing her brother's forces, who would have prevented her from meeting him. She successfully charmed him with her sheer audacity and her intelligence, and was able to make Caesar an ally. And with his support, she was able to successfully regain her throne. And although Cleopatra was known to be a siren and a femme fatale and had men literally starting wars for her, she was not necessarily known for her looks. This comes to show that seduction is less about physical beauty. Seduction is more about character than appearance. And the previous story, it's important to note that Julius Caesar had his option of woman, but he was drawn to Cleopatra because she was able to seduce her with her charm and her audacity and her intelligence. Now, does looking put together help? Is pretty privilege a thing? Absolutely. It doesn't help to charm someone if you haven't showered in 2 weeks and you don't take care of yourself, but you don't need to look like a model in order to practice the art of seduction. On the flip flip side, there are also people who are drop-dead gorgeous who can be miserable to be around. Having a magnetic aura and seduction is beyond looks. It's the way that we carry ourselves and the way that our confidence speaks for us. Before we dive deeper into using seduction to get your way, let's first define it so that we have a better understanding of what seduction actually means. Seduction can easily be mistaken as manipulating someone with a romantic or physical action. However, that is not at all the case. At its core, seduction is about influence. It's about persuasion and the ability to attract others into wanting something that is more aligned with your thoughts, your beliefs, or actions. This is totally different from manipulation because while both seduction and manipulation involves influence, seduction is more about creating a magnetic pull to attract a specific behavior, a thought, a person, or whatever it is that your goal is without coercion and without force. It's the same as a company creating an attractive work environment with attractive compensation and benefits to attract or quote unquote seduce talent into joining the company. Psychologically, seduction taps into the very core of human needs and desires, such as the need for connection, validation, or excitement of the unknown. Seduction is a skill, and skills can be learned. A big part of understanding seduction is understanding human psychology. Cleopatra understood that when she was introducing herself in a male-dominated space of male leaders, male conquerors, kings, and male rulers, she leaned into her femininity to provide a refreshing contrast to a space filled with masculinity and war and sweat. And so, going back to the previous reference, she really tapped into the human need or human desire for excitement of something unknown or something that was more rare. After Julius Caesar was assassinated, Cleopatra was once again in a vulnerable position, and she looked to align with another powerful figure, Mark Antony. He summoned her to where he was at to discuss her allegiance. And instead of just showing up, Cleopatra made a grand entrance on a golden ship with colorful sails, dressed like the goddess Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and filled her ship with very fragrant flowers and perfume. She had servants fanning her, adding to the visual and making her out to be this divine figure. And from history, we know that the allegiance was successful and again proves how charming and intelligent Cleopatra was, as she made herself and her presence like a vacation for the men that she was seducing. Now, am I telling you to go and seduce men? Absolutely not. But what I am saying is that you can lean into your femininity and leverage the art of seduction to get what you want. In a day and age where it seems like masculine energy is rewarded through the rise of hustle culture, right? And women are becoming more masculine just to survive. Femininity is even more rare. And that also means that it makes it easier for those who do capitalize on it. When I was working on a team, I often dressed and acted more feminine so that I could better play the damsel in distress to attract masculine men that will provide me with solutions and just help me get my work done. Playing the damsel in distress doesn't mean that you are dumbing yourself down. It's called being smart and acting stupid. You are able to receive help and get the work that you need done without doing the heavy lifting. And men in their masculine energy can be rewarded and feel like they are the hero in your situation. And so it's a win-win situation that you created. That honestly sounds genius to me. And so, like Cleopatra, don't be afraid to leverage your femininity and utilize the art of seduction to get what you want. If you're unfamiliar with this character or the show, Gossip Girl essentially revolves around the glamorous lives of a small circle of Manhattan socialites. In the beginning, the show starts with the return of Serena van der Woodsen, and Serena and Blair Waldorf, two of the main characters, were and are friends. And it seemed like they had many similarities. They were both very popular, they were gorgeous, and of course, they were both Manhattan socialites that come from from privileged backgrounds. However, as the show progresses, we can really see some of the differences in personalities come to light. Serena, especially in comparison to Blair, seemed so effortlessly talented. She was naturally charming, joyful, and just overall very charismatic. And on the other hand, Blair, she just seemed much more intense and serious. She was calculated, she was ambitious, a perfectionist, and would stop at nothing to achieve her goals. And it really seemed like the show revolved around Serena, especially in the first few episodes and season. But over time, it seemed like fans began to like Blair a lot more. And so, why is that? It seemed like Serena, she effortlessly got opportunities that Blair would work hard for, simply because Serena had this natural, carefree, and charismatic personality. This was proven a few times during the show. For example, in the beginning, right? Blair had the opportunity to cover for a magazine. Serena came to visit, and as she was giving Blair tips on how to look more carefree and radiant for the shoot, the photographer saw this and mentioned how Serena would just naturally be a better fit for the cover rather than Blair, even though you can see during the shoot how much Blair was trying and how much the opportunity meant to her. And from an outsider's perspective, we all desire to be naturally charismatic and talented to the point where we can get opportunities left and right so easily, which is why it was somewhat fitting for Serena to be somewhat more so of the main character and for the show to revolve more around her, because it seemed like she was always in the spotlight. However, we began to have this growing appreciation and sense of admiration for Blair and her ambitious nature, and the fact that she takes pride in how hard she works to achieve a goal that she sets her mind to. A perfect example of this is the scene where Blair sees Serena get into her dream school, Yale. In a conversation with the dean, Blair expresses her awareness that she isn't like Serena, who can make someone feel like they've known each other for ages, even though they just met. Instead, Blair, she emphasizes on her hardworking nature and other achievements that she had. She acknowledges her shortcomings in comparison to Serena and doesn't play the victim. Instead, she shows her willingness to work hard and highlights her worth in other ways. This is such an admirable quality because it shows self-awareness and determination. In some cases, this may mean that Blair will stop at nothing to achieve her goals. And so as a character, this is a flaw, especially if that means stepping on other people in doing so. But one thing we can come to respect is that Blair, she doesn't pretend to be a good person. She confronts her skeletons and even embraces them, while Serena sometimes plays a victim card.
My whole life, I have been bending over backwards to protect your feelings. And you know what? It's not my fault you're so insecure.
And I'm sure it's not your fault you're so conceited.
I'm just tired of trying to hold myself back so I don't outshine you.
Oh my God.
Although there are many flaws to her character, there is a level of authenticity that demands respect and as a result makes her so magnetic. We all aren't perfect, like Blair, but she doesn't pretend to be. And that brings us to the lesson of this episode. She embraces who she is fully, her strengths and her flaws, and is authentic to who she is. In other words, she is not fake. We've all done and said things that we aren't proud of, but the key to becoming magnetic really comes down to how we deal with those imperfections. Blair makes numerous mistakes throughout the show, yet she doesn't hide them. Instead, she acknowledges them and even uses them to her advantage. Owning your flaws is so powerful in the sense that it makes you honest to yourself and to others. It shows self-awareness and, to an extent, makes you more relatable. Acknowledging your flaws also gives room to improvement, which we witness in the character development of Blair towards the end of the show. People are drawn to genuine and authentic people, not those pretending to be perfect. Blair's confidence, despite her flaws, commands respect. She knows who she is and she doesn't apologize for it. Maybe you also know someone in your life who is fake. Oftentimes, they can be manipulative and overall untrustworthy. People who are fake will put on this facade to achieve their goals. For example, right, there was this girl that I was initially friends with because she just seemed so sweet. And so I began inviting her to these get-togethers with my other friends. But as she was socializing, I began to notice that she kept on changing her story and her opinion on things based on who she was talking to. To one friend who had one hobby, she would love that hobby as well. But to another friend who didn't like that same activity, now she hated it. And so to each person, it seemed like they had so much in common, but witnessing this change in opinion again and again, it just made me kind of like question her, right? Because over time, this lack of consistency just made her untrustworthy. And just imagine this at scale, for example, at a workplace environment. Would you rather trust the person who constantly tries to please everyone, get everyone on the good side, and in doing so, always changing their opinions to fit in? Or would you trust the person who is straightforward about their thoughts and feelings, even if they are occasionally more blunt? Honestly, I'd respect and value the opinion of the second person more. Even if I don't like it, at least I know it was honest and that it was sincere. Some people may say that Blair is mean, but over time you kind of just discover that she's really just bossy and it's mostly just her getting what she wants and not taking no for an answer. Her intentions aren't to harm, but rather she just wants the best for herself. Blair really embodies that character of hard work and determination, not effortless success, especially in comparison to Serena. This relatability and resilience makes her a character that we kind of look up to. She sets the example that if you want something and if you believe in yourself and just work hard towards it, then you will get it. Blair shows us that with enough determination and hard work, we can achieve our dreams no matter what the circumstances. And so I hope that encourages you to be authentic to yourself and your desires and empowers you to work hard towards it with self-belief and determination. Regina George is a character from the iconic movie Mean Girls, and she was the popular girl, the queen bee of her high school who had major influence in this high school setting. And in my opinion, I think Regina's influence on people is a key central aspect of her it girl factor. She had people who loved her and she had people who hated her. She had people who wanted to become her and she had people who wanted to be with her, and of course, people who wanted to drag her down. Regardless of the feelings that people had of her, there is no denying that she is on everyone's mind, whether it was for good or bad reason. Yes, I think we can all agree that her character had flaws and that she was not an angel. She did some awful things. However, we can all agree that she does have a commanding presence. She is intelligent, she is ambitious, and manipulatively charming, which all support and amplify this influence that she had. So yes, we can recognize that Regina's leadership style does come with some flaws, but we can still see the importance of confidence and strategic thinking in leadership roles professionally, socially, and even personally, just as the leader of our own lives. One thing that Regina always says about her influence and popularity is that being liked is simply not enough. She needs to be feared and respected as well. You can respect someone without liking them, and you can like someone without respecting them. However, it's important to note that these are not the same things, and in my opinion, nor do they hold the same value. For example, imagine you're shopping for some clothes, right? And you have two people that you can call for advice. One person you don't really like because she always speaks her mind and will tell you that that dress makes you look like a beanpole, but you respect her opinion even though it's not the kindest. It's blunt, but it's honest. The other person is a people pleaser, and you like them because they will tell you what you want to hear and will tell you that that dress makes you look gorgeous even though that dress can make you look hideous. Okay? In scenarios like this, you can really see how being respected can be much more valuable than being liked. Regina plays into this dynamic perfectly, understanding that being liked is not enough. Not only does she understand that being liked is not enough, she also understands that it actually is not possible. She is fully aware that there are people who do not like her. She cannot get everyone to like her. right? Which I believe is why she values respect and fear so much. The existence of the burn book itself is a prime example of Regina's strategy. The book contains secrets and insults about nearly everyone in the school. By using that book as her leverage, Regina, she creates this environment where people are scared of her potential to expose their secrets. And this fear keeps people in line and ensures that Regina stays on top of the social hierarchy. Now, am I telling you to go out and create your own version of the burn book and hold it over people's head? No. But what I am saying is that there should be a healthy sense of fear with the people in your lives, and this could simply look like a fear of losing you. And the only way to do that is to stop trying to be liked by everyone. You need to understand and come to terms with the fact that not everyone is going to like you. You can literally be the sweetest peach, but some people just don't like peaches. You can literally do everything right, and there will still be people who do not like you. And I remember this so vividly. But I remember this old job that I had, right? It was my first quote unquote big girl job. And so initially, it was important to me that I made a good impression on everyone that I worked with. And it was important to me that everyone liked me. This translated to me overextending myself, overcommitting myself to help everyone out. And yes, I'm very, very grateful because I did learn a lot, but I was also very, very burnt out. And I knew that I couldn't do that long term because my skin was literally breaking out. I was losing hair and I was sleeping like 3 to 4 hours a night. It was just not healthy. Sure, there are a lot of people who liked me because they knew that I would take whatever they gave me. And I remember when I asked for a raise, initially they had said no because they believed, and rightfully so from the way that I behaved, that I would take whatever that they gave me because I wanted to be liked. But I stood my ground and had gotten that raise that I thought was worth it because I made it clear that I wanted to stay at a company that valued what I could bring to the table and be compensated so. That created a level of respect and a fear that I would walk away and that would leave them with having to train another person who may or may not provide what I was providing in terms of value and talent and skills. And so you can see again that sometimes a healthy dose of fear and respect is much more valuable than trying to be liked. Regina, she understands this and she embraces this. Her focus on being respected, even feared at some levels, rather than universally liked, is really what I think sets her apart from the other characters and really solidifies this influence that she had throughout the movie. Again, there were, of course, obvious issues to her leadership style, such as genuinely being mean and doing some awful things, but I think we can all agree how effective the feeling of being feared and respected was able to amplify this influence that she had as the quote-unquote queen bee. So how do we command respect? I'm so glad you asked. We teach people how to treat us. So in order for others to respect you, you need to respect yourself first. This means that you need to understand your core values, set clear boundaries, and not being afraid to reinforce those boundaries. You need to respect yourself so much to the point where people know that they need to come correct or not come at all because they know that you won't tolerate being mistreated. Regina George can be many things. A bully, a pretty girl, a mean girl, a queen bee, but one thing that she is not is a people pleaser. The way that she is able to evoke such complicated feelings for people to hate her, to love her, to worship her, is all because she doesn't chase around getting everyone to like her. And as a result, she is able to influence people the way that she does. I hope that you can take this lesson as an encouragement to stop prioritizing to get everyone to like you and rather focus on self-respect and developing yourself to command respect and make people fear losing you. If you're unfamiliar with who Elle Woods is, she is a main character from the movie Legally Blonde. Initially, she is introduced as a fashion-forward, bubbly sorority girl, but after her ex-boyfriend breaks up with her to be with someone more quote-unquote serious, the movie follows her journey of pursuing law and achieving success to prove that she is much more than just a pretty face. At Harvard Law School, although she is constantly underestimated by her peers, she is able to excel academically and even leverage her unique fashion perspectives to win a major case. Personally, what really draws me into her character is how inspiring her self-belief is. She had plenty of encounters where people assumed that she was just another stereotypical blonde. Her peers and even professors underestimated her, assuming that she wouldn't be able to perform well because of her background in fashion and her bubbly personality. They saw her as someone who didn't belong in the rigorous world of law and expected her to struggle and even fail. Elle doesn't let their opinions get to her and ultimately proves them wrong, which leads us to the lesson to this video. Your self-belief is your most valuable currency. Even though this is a lighthearted movie, I think the bigger idea that you can take away is so empowering. You are not limited to what people assume of you. You are more than what other people say about you, and you can achieve more, and you are worth more than what people define for you. We've explored the idea that main characters are main characters because of the hardships and the obstacles they have to overcome. I agree with this. Everyone faces issues in their life, and it's about how we overcome these issues that makes us the main characters of our own stories. However, let's not forget the possibility that sometimes we can be our own hardship that we have to overcome. Someone said that we can choose to be our own biggest cheerleader or our own biggest enemy, and it really comes down to what we tell ourselves in our head, which either leads to us believing in ourselves or us sabotaging ourselves. In society, we are often told to be realistic, which in some cases are true, but anyone who has achieved something big once had a dream or a goal that someone has ridiculed. When you first start working on something that is meaningful to you and you have no prior experience or no prior results that say you can achieve that it is that you want, literally the only thing that you have is faith to work the hardest that you can and hope for the best. When I first started YouTube, I've never done anything like this. I went to school for accounting and finance, which has nothing to do with this creative work. None of my friends or family did content creation. Nothing in my reality told me that I was going to be successful in this and I could make a career out of it. And I didn't tell anyone I was doing YouTube because I was too shy at first, and I didn't know if I was going to pursue this long term. And so I didn't have that support either. The only thing that I had was to be optimistic that this could turn out well and that I could potentially carve out a career that I enjoy, find meaningful, and can potentially help people as well. And so I share this story to make this point. When you have nothing in your reality to say that you should believe, lean on optimism. Some may call it delusion, some may tell you to be realistic, but at the end of the day, no one knows how much you are capable of more than you. And sometimes you don't even realize how much you are capable of until you give yourself that proper chance. But I understand that sometimes it's hard to not let other people's opinion affect you. It's definitely easier said than done, but I think when you understand that opinions aren't facts, you're able to detach yourself from those opinions a little bit better. People will always have opinions of you, which they are entitled to. That is just the reality of things, but their opinions of you also aren't facts. Just like in the movie, everyone thought that Elle Woods would be struggling through a law school and thought that she was your typical blonde with a bubbly personality that is probably just an airhead. But just like she didn't let that get to her head and stop her from achieving everything that she did, you shouldn't let other people's opinion of you stop you from achieving what it is that you are meant to achieve. Personally, I just choose to not tell people what I'm working on until I feel a little bit more established. For example, the decision I made to not even tell my family I was doing YouTube until I was close to 100K followers, and I didn't even tell them the channel until I got my silver plaque. And that was because I knew I'm someone who values the opinions of people who matter to me, and that's just something that I cannot help. If I care about you, I'm going to care about your opinions. But I also didn't want to be in a position where I was just starting YouTube, and if I tell my parents, for them to tell me that this is silly, this is stupid, it's too risky, or that it's just not a good use of my time, and have that discourage me before I even get started. So I just chose not to tell them. And I think that's the philosophy a lot of people use when keeping their relationships private too, right? Private but not a secret. And so with that said, I hope this episode is really able to help encourage you to believe in yourself a little bit more, because self-belief is your most valuable currency. There are two types of people in this world, those who do the talking and those who are talked about. And you may think that those who do the talking are the ones who hold the power, but the real power comes from being in a position where you can influence and therefore can control the narrative around your name. Today's episode may be a little bit controversial, but this is a risk that I'm willing to take. And so, with that said, we will be exploring Anna Delvey, the power of fame, and the art of being the conversation. Anna Delvey is a con artist. Let's get that out of the way first. There is no excusing that, but setting her crimes aside, there might be something that we can learn about influence and the power of narrative without glorifying her actions. If you're unfamiliar with her story, Anna Delvey was nobody until she became somebody. She created the persona of being a rich heiress and infiltrated her way into the upper class and scammed people and businesses out of a lot and a lot of money. If you've seen Inventing Anna on Netflix, you may recall the scene where she was in prison and there was a reporter who wanted to take on her story. Anna rejected the reporter on her many requests for an interview, and it wasn't until the reporter promised to make Anna famous did Anna smile and finally agree to the interview. Anna didn't want justice. She didn't care for her name to be cleared. Anna just wanted fame, and this scene stuck with me. Fame is influence, and influence is social currency that holds value in many different forms: money, status, and leverage. Even Robert Greene dedicated a lot to this in his book 48 Laws of Power. Law 6 says to court attention at all costs, emphasizing the power of being noticed and standing out. Blending in makes you forgettable, while those who master the art of drawing attention often are the ones who hold influence. You can't influence anybody when nobody knows who you are. We don't have to choose the route that Anna took, but one thing that I do admire is how she was able to leverage what she had and turn it into something meaningful. Anna Delvey is a convicted felon, but she is now on Dancing with the Stars and modeling for runway shows and attending New York Fashion Week. Brands know that despite her past, she is someone that people talk about, and everywhere she goes, she'll bring that attention, and that holds value. And you may think, well, why would I want to be known for something so terrible, for something that you may not be proud of? But maybe that is the point. I doubt many people have a quote-unquote perfect past, because in reality, we've all made mistakes. I've made plenty that I'm not proud of, and I'm sure that you've made some mistakes as well. But that's the point. We're human, and the whole point is to learn from our mistakes and give ourselves the opportunity to move on and hopefully become a better person out of it, because the worst thing that you can do for yourself and possibly for others as well is to continuing that cycle of behavior that is getting you into trouble and is keeping you in that same lifestyle that you aren't proud of. There is this scene from The Wolf of Wall Street where someone said that there is no such thing as bad publicity. And I don't bring this point up to encourage bad behavior, but I mention this to say that you can take risks, do something that is unconventional, and in the worst case scenario, if it fails and it fails publicly, it might even work in your favor. A classic example that I could think of on the top of my head is Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, you know him. And I remember where he held this huge event to showcase a new car that was supposed to be indestructible, only for it to break on TV publicly. He's always being talked about, and guess what? Tesla apparently has a $0 marketing budget. Elon himself is a marketing, and the results are in a form of value that money can't even buy. He comes out with the most ridiculous products, and they will be sold out almost immediately. And that is the value of influence. This story highlights a lesson we can all take from this, is that whatever decision you make, those you feel like is a mistake, those you feel like you should be ashamed about, even if you failed and you're afraid to do so publicly, I feel like stories like these can be really empowering because you never know what will come out of it. If you take a look at Anna, it seemed like not only did she not try to hide from her past and from her mistakes, she actually seeks out public attention for it. Instead of staying at home and staying under the radar and being in isolation, she is at red carpet events with her ankle monitor. What she is known for is far from perfect, but love her or hate her, you know her. She is this mysterious girl that people thought was rich, and through fame, she is now the mysterious girl that really is rich. Again, it does not excuse what she has done, but how I see it is that anyone who has had a troubled past should also deserve to move on, because that's the whole point, right? To learn from what you have done wrong and become a better person because of it. Anna is now leveraging her story to make a career out of herself, and we'll see where that takes her. And although she does get plenty of hate from it, she is someone who attracts the opportunities that she has had because of it. She signed a Netflix show, she is on Dancing with Stars, she's working with brands and closing out shows as a model. And that is the power of fame. When you take control of your own narrative and how your life plays out, no matter if you're doing something right or wrong, there will always be people who talk about you. And maybe that is the whole point. When you're in the conversation, you react to what's going on and what has already happened. But when you've mastered the art of being the conversation, you get to influence what will happen and what is happening. You have the power to influence how your story gets to play out. If I leave you with anything today, it's this: influence is power. And so I highly recommend you to think about the idea of building yours if you haven't already. However big or small, whether you're shaping an entire community or simply just inspiring a younger sibling. I've always been so grateful for the incredibly positive influence I've had growing up, as well as the influence that I surround myself with now. And I think the world will be a better place if we have more positive influences out there. And so I hope that you will be one of them.
Lisa is so famous that I'm not even sure if it makes sense to introduce who she is, but for the purpose of this episode, I think it's relevant to highlight her humble beginnings. Lisa started out debuting as a K-pop idol, and as a foreigner, she faced her own struggles, being away from home, being away from family, having to adopt a new language, and adjusting to a totally new and foreign cultural environment, and even facing some biases along the way. As her group and as Lisa was gaining fame, she received criticism for her accent and her identity, people being skeptical and doubting on whether or not a non-Korean could succeed in a K-pop group, and even bias from her own company, who assigned her to go on a reality survival show where she had to undergo some intense military training. She was the first K-pop idol to ever participate in a show like this, which is very unusual when you consider the fact that idols are expected to maintain this very polished and very glamorous image. In fact, this industry is known for having strict expectations on this type of stuff. And so participating in a military training where she is publicly sweating, struggling, and pushing her limits, although admirable, it shows the bias that she had to deal with. And the challenges that she did encounter, it could have easily discouraged her. She could have complained, she could have been bitter, or played the victim. But instead, she chose to embrace every difficulty as an opportunity to grow. Rather than focusing on what was unfair or what was difficult, she gave everything her all to prove that resilience and mindset are just as important as talent, which brings us to the main lesson of this video. Life is what you make it. It's her unwavering work ethic and determination that transformed her from a girl wanting to become a K-pop idol to becoming one of the most recognized K-pop idols, a record-breaking solo artist, being the face of high-end luxury brands like Celine, Bulgari, now Louis Vuitton, opening Victoria's Secret fashion shows, becoming the CEO of her own company, and now a rising actress as well. Lisa reminds us that life is what you make it, and that success isn't just about circumstances. It's also about attitude, effort, and the ability to see possibility when all others see are obstacles. While Lisa's mindset and her work ethic is admirable on its own, one thing that I've come to notice is her positivity. In China, Lisa is very famous as well, and people often refer to her as the human Barbie there, which of course some of the credit goes towards her appearance, but most importantly because she always wears a smile. And I think that oftentimes we forget the power of something as simple as a smile, because a smile isn't just something that brightens your own face. It uplifts the people around you and the mood in the room. It creates this very inviting energy, and as a result, it naturally makes you more magnetic. Lisa embodies this fully. No matter the circumstances, whether she was struggling as a trainee, dealing with biases, or stepping into unfamiliar territory, now debuting as an actress, she always approached every situation with positivity and with a smile, which is a reflection of her mindset and her positive attitude. And I think That's what makes her truly stand out. Lisa doesn't just give her best effort in everything she does, but she does it with a smile. A smile is a sign of happiness, but more than that, it's a sign of gratitude. She seems happy and grateful for every little or big gesture, every opportunity, and every obstacle. Imagine yourself in a situation where you are giving presents to two friends. One of them truly appreciates your kindness, while the other complains that maybe this isn't exactly what they wanted. Who would you feel more inclined to give to again? Naturally, the first friend, right? Gratitude and appreciation makes people want to give you more because it feeds a cycle of positivity and abundance. The same principle applies to life in general. No one owes you anything in life, but when you show appreciation and gratitude for everything, no matter how big or small, opportunity or obstacle, it makes it incredibly hard for people to not feel inclined to support you, uplift you, and open doors for you. And this is exactly what Lisa embodies. The constant smile that she wears isn't just a reflection of her positivity, but also a reflection of her being truly happy and grateful. And as a result, it makes people love her more, root for her harder, and feel genuinely happy to see her succeed. Talent is important because Lisa is talented, but attitude also plays a massive role in life as well. Supporting someone who constantly complains and feels entitled is quite draining, but when someone radiates gratitude, you want to see them win. And so it's proof that gratitude is the key to attracting and receiving more blessings. And if we zoom out on Lisa's career and all of her success, it reflects exactly that. Sometimes you aren't dealt the best cards in life, but that's way out of your control, and what you can control is how you decide to play the cards that you are dealt with. Lisa's journey is proof that life is what you make it. Despite the challenges that she faces, she embraced every obstacle, gave it her all, and did it with a smile. And as a result, every obstacle became an opportunity that turned into a stepping stone for her massive success. So no matter where you are in life, remember that your attitude shapes your reality. Instead of dwelling on what's unfair, focus on what you can control. Approach challenges with resilience, with confidence, and most importantly, don't forget to smile, because life is what you make it, and you have the power to make it beautiful. Whether on screen or off screen, whether it's speaking at events or simply walking the red carpet, Zendaya radiates self-assurance. Her presence naturally draws people in, and it all comes down to confidence. True confidence creates a very inviting energy. When you're secure within yourself, you don't feel the need to compete, prove your worth, or put others down to feel a little bit better about yourself. It creates room for you to be able to appreciate the beauty of others and create space to uplift those around you, and Zendaya embodies this perfectly. Her confidence is undeniable in the way that she carries herself, but it never comes off as arrogance. We see a handful of celebrities who, after fame, use it as an excuse for entitlement, justify special treatment, or just to be plain rude. I don't want to name names, but take James Corden for example. He had an incident where a restaurant banned him because of his bad behavior, where he berated employees over an issue with an omelet. At the end of the day, good people want to support good behavior, and Zendaya, whether she was a fresh-faced Disney star or the A-lister that she is today, she never carried that "do you even know who I am" type of attitude. Her confidence comes from a place of self-assurance, not insecurity. And when you are truly secure within yourself, you also trust yourself enough to take risks, challenge yourself, and explore new ventures with curiosity instead of fear. Which brings us to her next defining quality, which is her evolving with purpose. Zendaya has been in the spotlight for over a decade, and yet her relevance and popularity continues to grow. Rising to fame and maintaining popularity are two entirely different skill sets, and yet she's mastered both. One of the biggest reasons? She allows herself to evolve and expand on who she is, choosing projects that challenges her abilities and allows her to broaden her range. Zendaya started her career on Shake It Up, a lighthearted Disney Channel sitcom, but instead of staying within Disney or even staying within the same genre, she deliberately sought out more complex roles, like her role as Rue in Euphoria, a raw, emotionally demanding character that ended up earning her 2 Emmy Awards. And I think this move really highlights how she isn't afraid to step out of her comfort zone and challenge herself. And beyond acting, Zendaya has carved out a place in the fashion world, known for her iconic red carpet choices and collaborations
collaborations with brands like Valentino and Tommy Hilfiger to actively shape trends. Beyond acting and high fashion, Zendaya has also taken on roles as a producer, like in Malcolm and Marie, where she had a say in both the creative and business aspect of the film. This shows her willingness to learn new skills and expands her influence beyond just acting. From an outsider's perspective, Zendaya seems to have it all. Fame, success, she's beautiful inside and out, a loving relationship, and recently got engaged. She seems to have it all, yet she's still finding new ways to challenge herself and expand on who she is. It feels like in life, she's constantly striving to be a better version of herself, and that's something to really admire. It's the fact that she really doesn't need to at this level of success already, but she still chooses to. In interviews, Zendaya has even said, "I don't even want to be considered a role model. I want to be someone people can look up to and say, wow, if she can do it, so can I." And that mindset really shows that her drive isn't just about personal success. It's about inspiring others to push their own limits. She understands that her story, although it is uniquely hers, it isn't just for her. It also sets an example for those who look up to her. And that's what makes her even more magnetic. She's not just leveling up for herself, she's also inspiring others to do the same. When someone isn't just successful, but is also intentional about their growth, they inspire others to grow as well. That kind of influence is so magnetic, it naturally draws people in. It makes us feel like we are not only supporting a person, but we're also supporting a vision. Although Zendaya doesn't carry herself with the celebrity mindset, she is still fully aware of her fame and influence, and rather using that influence for personal gain or clout, she uses it towards meaningful causes. If you followed Zendaya for a while, you know that she's very vocal about the social issues that she believes in, and is quite involved in philanthropy work as well. In a day and age where there's a whole genre of good deed content online, where people hand out money to strangers with a camera shoved in their face for content, for praise, or for views, which although is a great thing that they still did the good deed, but it can feel formative and come off as inauthentic. Zendaya's approach is refreshingly genuine. She doesn't go out of her way to broadcast it, and to be quite honest, I wasn't even aware that Zendaya is involved with so much philanthropy work until I had to do research for this episode, and that really says a lot. She does it because she cares, not because she's trying to score some good PR points. And I think this is what makes Zendaya so incredibly charming. Her confidence draws you in, her personality makes her likable, her talent makes you admire her, and her integrity makes you respect her. It's like the more you learn about her, the more you find yourself naturally rooting for her. What makes Zendaya's use of influence particularly special is how it creates this positive feedback loop with her fans. Her fans admire her not just for her talent, but for her integrity and commitment to causes that she truly cares about. This makes fans who support her feel good about supporting her. This mutual level of respect and admiration feeds a cycle of support that I believe has significantly fueled her continuous success. At the end of the day, Zendaya's success isn't just about talent, it's about how she carries it. She doesn't chase or demand attention, she moves with confidence, evolves with purpose, and uses her influence for good. And because of that, she naturally attracts success and admiration. It reminds me of that quote that goes, "If you want to attract butterflies, don't chase them. Tend to your garden and they will come to you." And possibly that is the real takeaway of this. True confidence isn't loud and respect isn't demanded but earned. When you know who you are, stay committed to growth, and move with integrity, people will take notice and they will root for you just like we do for her. Miranda Priestly from The Devil Wears Prada is, well, the quote-unquote devil of the story. She is the editor at a prestigious fashion magazine called Runway and is known for both her talent as well as her very intimidating demeanor. She's intimidating, yes, but not because she's loud or dramatic. She's intimidating because she knows exactly who she is, what she wants, and does not make room for any less. There is a scene where Andy shows up late, overwhelmed, and questions
questioning if she belongs in Miranda's world. Miranda, she doesn't yell and she doesn't get emotional, nor does she compromise her standards to make Andy feel more comfortable. She simply reminds Andy, calmly but directly, that there are hundreds of women who would kill for her job, and that opportunity is a privilege, not a pity favor. It's not about fashion, it's about excellence. Miranda, she doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, and she doesn't compromise her standards to make others comfortable. She expects people to rise up to her level or step aside, because that's exactly what leadership looks like. She was the editor-in-chief and is responsible for the quality of the work that gets published on Runway, and so she has every right to set the standards to ensure that the work her company puts out matches a level of quality that succeeds. And the same goes for you in your life. As a leader of your own life, you have every right to want a good life for yourself and therefore have standards that reflect that. Stop apologizing for what you want, expecting better, or refusing to accept the bare minimum. The life you live reflects what you tolerate. Not everyone will like it, but the right ones will respect it. And respect starts with how you honor and respect your own expectations. And here's the thing, when you have standards, some people might label you as difficult or cold or intimidating. And you know what? They might be right to them, but that's okay, because that brings us to the next lesson. You don't need to be liked to be respected, because here's the truth. You can be the most likable person in the room and still not be taken seriously. Likability is easy. It's about making people feel comfortable. And so anyone can be quote unquote liked if they are accommodating enough. But respect takes presence, boundaries, and consistency. And that is why respect tends to last. Because when you prioritize being liked, the second you stop giving people what they want, they stop quote unquote liking you. Many of us prioritize being liked because we think that it can help us progress in work, in life, and in relationships. And while that can be true, it's not a guarantee, because you can like someone and not respect them. You only get taken seriously when people actually respect you and what you have to say. And so we need to prioritize the two accordingly, and also understand that these two are mutually different. You cannot like someone and still respect them. People didn't describe Miranda as nice or likable. They quite literally referred to her as the devil. It's literally the title of the movie. But they never disrespected her. They didn't question her choices. They didn't show up late. They valued every word that she said and all the expectations that she had. Miranda doesn't care if people like her. She commands respect, and that lasts longer and holds so much more value than popularity alone. And here's the irony. The less Miranda cared about being liked, the more people scrambled for her approval. Every time she walked into the office, people panicked to look their best, to appear perfect, and to meet her expectations and to rise to her standards. And we see real life examples of this as well. Look at Rihanna. She's kind, but she also will not hesitate to put you in your place if needed. This is so different from so many celebrities who understandably value their public image. But Rihanna, she's bold, she's unfiltered, and she doesn't cater to what people expect a celebrity or a mother to act like. No, she's not rude, but she also isn't trying to be America's sweetheart. And yet the world respects her because she owns who she is. Or let's go back further and take a look at Princess Diana. In so many instances, she broke royal protocol and chose kindness over tradition. And as a result, she was often ridiculed by the monarchy, and yet people respected her more than the crown itself. And so you kind of see this pattern. Sometimes staying true to yourself, staying true to your values, your standards, and boundaries means some people may not like you because, like Miranda, you require them to show up as their best self. Like Rihanna, you are not afraid to put people in their place if needed. Or like Princess Diana, you don't care about fitting into what everyone expects you or wants you to, but they will respect you. And you don't have to be cruel or cold or mean to be respected. You just have to stop shrinking yourself for approval, and that means stop people pleasing, stop compromising who you are, your values, your standards, and your boundaries for the sake of keeping the peace. appease or for the sake of likability. Because when you're constantly chasing for approval, you give away your power. Just think about it. Miranda Priestly, she wasn't warm or fuzzy, but her name literally opened doors in fashion. At the end of the movie, Andy got hired at another company, sure, from her own experiences and her own skills, but the person hiring got a recommendation from Miranda herself and respected it way too much to disregard it. That is a power that respect gets you. Being liked might get you invited, but being respected puts you at the head of the table. Miranda Priestly, of course, had her own flaws, and we can see that character development as the movie progresses, but she had certain strengths because of her values and traits that made her so influential, and I think it could be so incredibly helpful to take those strengths and apply it into our lives as well. And so with all of that said, I hope that this episode encourages you to stop apologizing for your standards and to stop chasing approval from others. If you're unfamiliar with Audrey Hepburn, she was a British actress and one of the most iconic figures in the 1950s and 60s, with her name still recognized till this day, proving the lasting influence she holds as one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. The first lesson she highlights for us is the power of grace over force and the power of less. Unlike the overt, flashy glamour of her time, Audrey embodied an entirely different kind of allure, understated sophistication. Where others turned to extravagance to be seen, Audrey captured the world's attention through simplicity and quite literally made history doing it. For example, her Breakfast at Tiffany's little black dress by Givenchy became one of the most iconic fashion moments in history, proving that simplicity can be more powerful than excess. Whether it was in her style, the softness in her voice, the gentleness of her demeanor, or the simplicity of her presence, Audrey mastered the art of restraint. Her fashion choices were always minimal, yet impactful, never overdone, but always elegant. Her voice, always calm and soothing, commanded attention without raising it, and her movements, they were graceful yet poised, conveying strength without effort. Audrey understood that it wasn't about being loud to be heard. Whether on screen or in her personal life, she knew how to use her presence and her actions to speak volumes without saying a word. She captivated the world with her quiet confidence, showing that sometimes the most powerful presence is the one that says the least. For some, this kind of restraint can add to one's mystery and allure, as there's power in letting people wonder and creating this room for people to crave and want more. But for Audrey, she also teaches us how this type of restraint and minimalism can also be a form of grace and elegance. Audrey wasn't loud, aggressive, or attention-seeking, yet she attracted the attention of the world. This elegance and behavior highlights for us how you don't have to force your way into a room to leave an unforgettable impression. You can be soft, restrained, intentional, and still captivate an entire room, or like Audrey, the entire world. The next lesson she highlights for us is how authenticity is magnetic. Audrey didn't try to fit into the typical bombshell mold in the 1950s. Think Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield. She didn't try to compete with them, imitate them, or outshine them at their own game. Instead, she leaned into her own natural elegance, her slender frame, delicate features, big doe eyes, and playful, almost childlike spirit. And that's exactly what made her unforgettable. Yes, we've talked about reinvention and creating a new version of yourself if you don't like who you are. We've seen how Norma Jean became Marilyn Monroe and how even Beyonce turns into her alter identity of Sasha Fierce whenever she steps onto the stage. Reinvention can be incredibly powerful, but Audrey also shows us that sometimes the most magnetic thing you can do is to not change at all. Audrey fully
leaned into who she already was, even when it didn't match what was quote-unquote hot in the mainstream at the time. She didn't try to chase trends or mold herself into that era's definition of beauty, and that didn't make her any less impactful. In fact, it actually made her timeless. Audrey was also quite open about her difficult past, including the challenges of her wartime childhood and her personal struggles. This is far from the glamorous Hollywood image that was in at the time and often played out, but she didn't try to hide or downplay her past and her vulnerabilities. Instead, she used them to fuel her empathy and compassion, qualities that helped her connect deeply with people from all walks of life. And I think that's the real lesson here. There's incredible value in not trying to be like anyone else and changing who you are, because when you fully own what makes you different, what made you into who you are, you automatically become unforgettable, because the fact of the matter is there is no one like you and no one who experienced what you had to experience to become the version of you that you are today. And that is the whole beauty of it, and that holds so much value. And last but not least, Audrey also highlights for us the power of substance over image. Even though she was a global fashion icon, Audrey prioritized substance over surface level fame. Yes, she had impeccable style. Yes, she was a muse to some of the most legendary designers like Vinci, but what made her truly unforgettable was her inner qualities. Instead of chasing more Hollywood success or capitalizing on her fame indefinitely, Audrey chose to dedicate her later years to humanitarian work with UNICEF. She traveled to some of the most devastated places in the world, not for the cameras or for publicity, but because she genuinely cared. She lent her name to causes, gave her time, her energy, and her heart. And as a result, her legacy isn't just limited to the glamorous photographs or her iconic Hollywood roles. It's built into the lives she touched, the children she helped, and the compassion she showed. Audrey reminds us that while beauty will always turn heads, it's substance, the values you live by, the way you treat others, and the impact you make that leaves a lasting legacy. Fame, it fades, trends come and go, and beauty standards, they evolve over time. But what endures is the mark you leave by, who you are, and what you stand for. Audrey Hepburn didn't dominate with force, she captivated with grace. She didn't become iconic by imitating others, she became unforgettable by staying true to herself. And while beauty opened doors for her, it was her substance that built a legacy that still inspires people till this day. Audrey shows us that you don't need to be the loudest in the room, the flashiest on screen, the trendiest in the moment, or the most perfect in the image you create to leave an impact. She reminds us that you just need to be authentic, lead with grace, and most importantly, she reminds us that who you are will always matter more than how you appear.
Before TikTok stars and Instagram models, before the term influencer even existed, Paris Hilton was already doing it. You could say that she was the original influencer during a time when that wasn't even considered a legitimate career path. At the time, people dismissed her as just another wealthy party girl, labeling her as shallow, vapid, with fame handed to her. But what they failed to realize was that Paris wasn't just part of the pop culture movement, she was creating it. Paris didn't just stumble into the fame, she was strategic. She understood that image is everything, and so she curated a persona so distinct that it became her brand. Other celebrities are known for a skill, whether it be acting, singing, sports, etc. But for Paris, fame itself was her talent. She was famous for being famous. The velour tracksuits, the tiny dogs, the oversized sunglasses, every single detail was intentional. With her signature phrase, "That's hot," she proved that personality and branding could be more influential than traditional talent. For Paris, we learned that in order to build a strong personal brand or influence, it's essential to remain visible and consistent. Paris understood this before anyone else, and that is why she never faded into the background. She kept showing up, whether it was on red carpets, in tabloid headlines, or on reality TV. She made sure that the world saw her. But she didn't just show up everywhere. other. She showed up as Paris Hilton. Her ability to maintain a consistent persona across all platforms holds a lot of value because while fame may come and go, personal branding doesn't. This teaches us a key lesson that sometimes the power behind building fame is simply showing up and doing it consistently. Consistency makes people trust you, even if the version of yourself you're showing up as is carefully curated. And here's the thing, the same thing is true for personal growth. When you first start showing up as your higher self, maybe you're softer, more confident, or more assertive, whatever the case may be, it may feel like you're pretending at first, and people around you may even say, hey, you've changed. And you have, but that's the point. And if you keep showing up and consistently present yourself as that higher version of yourself, people stop questioning it. And so do you. You may even start to believe it. It will slowly become a part of who you are, even if it started out as an act. So whether you're curating your personal brand or curating your personal life, remember, showing up matters, but how you consistently show up matters just as much. Going back to Paris Hilton's personal brand, she also demonstrated a different path to building influence, and that is riding the tide instead of fighting it. In a world that loves to judge and put people in boxes, Paris proved that you don't always have to fight the labels people place on you. While others try to box her into the mold of the rich, superficial heiress, Paris turned those very assumptions into her entire brand. She exaggerated the very traits people mocked, wore some on t-shirts, and use it as fuel to build a global brand that's still one of the most recognizable to this day. Paris didn't fight the tide, she rode it, and by doing so, she created a legacy. Her ability to take what was supposed to be a weakness and turn it into an empire shows us that sometimes you can win by losing. You don't need to prove everyone wrong. You can use their perceptions to fuel your success. I let my dad think I'm a bad driver, so I don't drive when I'm with him. I let my brother think he's stronger than me so that I don't carry anything when I'm with him. I have this friend and she was telling me how her partner always tries to argue that he is a better cook, and one day she just agreed with him and said, you know what? You're right, I'm not that good in the kitchen, and almost every meal he cooks for her. Not everything is a fight worth fighting. And Paris taught us the same lesson, that true power lies in owning what others try to use against you. And by doing so, you can turn those very things into your greatest strengths. This is exactly what Paris did, and it's what made her one of the most influential women in the world. And yet, despite her massive influence, she was constantly underestimated, which brings us to the next part of her story, how she took back control of her narrative. For years, the world saw Paris Hilton as the ultimate dumb blonde. She was underestimated, mocked, and written off as nothing more than a ditzy socialite. She leaned into that persona also, playing it up for the cameras, delivering iconic one-liners like, "What's Walmart? Do they sell walls?" The media painted her as an airhead, a party girl, someone who was famous for no reason. But what they failed to realize was that Paris knew exactly what she was doing. She was running businesses, creating brands, and making calculated moves that most people didn't give her enough credit for. But the moment that truly changed the public's perception of her came in 2020 with the release of her documentary, This is Paris. For the first time, she dropped the act and shared her real story, the trauma she endured at boarding school, the abuse she faced, and the emotional toll of being trapped in a persona the world expected her to maintain. Suddenly, the world saw her not as a shallow heiress, but rather a business mogul and someone who had been in control all along. She played the role that the world expected of her, but now she was rewriting her story. The brilliance of Paris Hilton isn't just that she defined an era, it's that she evolved beyond it. She took what could have been a fleeting moment of fame and turned it into a lifelong legacy, and that's hot. Her story teaches us that if you don't define yourself, the world will do it for you. Paris spent years letting people assume that she was just an airhead, but when she decided to speak her truth, she took back that power and was able to rewrite her narrative. And this is something that we can apply to our lives as well. People will always create narratives about you, whether it's in your personal life, your career, or your overall reputation. But the moment you decide to take control of your own story, you you shift that power dynamic. You get to decide how you are seen, what you stand for, and what you allow people to know about you. Of course, there are still some people who still see Paris as the ditzy socialite, just like not everyone will see you as the version of yourself you want to present. You may even be a villain in some people's story, and that's okay. You're not going to have everyone agreeing, but enough people will, and that should hold enough value. Paris's story is a reminder that reinvention is always possible. No matter how the world perceives you today, you have that ability to change the narrative tomorrow. Paris Hilton isn't just a pop culture moment. She's a case study in reinvention. What started out as a carefully curated persona became a global empire, and what the world once dismissed as surface level turned out to be one of the most strategic careers in modern entertainment. Her story proves that being underestimated can be a powerful advantage. While people were too busy laughing at her, she was laughing her way to the bank, building brands, launching businesses, and shaping the influencer culture that dominates today. But beyond the fame, the pink aesthetics, and the signature catchphrases, Paris Hilton's true power lies in control. Control over her image, her career, and ultimately her own narrative. She played the role people expected of her, but when it was time, she flipped the script on her own terms. If there's one lesson to take from Paris, it's this: your image is yours to define. You don't have to fit into the box that people put you in. Even if it may benefit you to do so in the moment, it doesn't have to stay that way. And whether the world sees your potential or not, you still hold the power to create your own legacy. Lana Del Rey doesn't just make music, she created an entire world. From her vintage Hollywood visuals to her cinematic sounds, she has built an aesthetic so immersive that people don't just listen to her songs, they live in them. And that's why Lana doesn't just attract casual listeners, but people who ultimately become devoted fans. Listening to Lana feels like you're driving along the Pacific Coast Highway in slow motion, wind in your hair, caught in some magic yet beautiful love story. She paints the kind of world where even the sad moments feel bittersweet and somewhat poetic. Like you're sad, but it's an aesthetic. Even if you aren't a fan of this genre of music, you can't help but still appreciate the form of art that she has created, and you can't deny the power of the atmosphere she creates. And in a world that does get noisy at times, atmosphere can speak louder than sound. Lana isn't just an artist, she's an aesthetic, a feeling, a world that you can step into. While most musicians create music, Lana isn't just selling music. She was selling an entire experience, and that experience became a movement. One of the biggest things Lana teaches us is that it's okay to actually feel things. When it feels like everyone around you is telling you to remain unbothered, that emotions make you weak, and to remain emotionless, this can hold a lot of value. She made heartbreak, loneliness, and nostalgia feel kind of beautiful. And that's something that we can all learn from. You don't have to rush to quote unquote get over it or act like everything's fine. Sometimes the most powerful thing that you can do is just sit with your feelings rather than rush past them. By romanticizing life, even the sad parts, we're reminded that our emotions don't make us weak, they make us real. And when you embrace them, they can actually become a part of your aesthetics and a part of who you are and who you are becoming. Lana turned her sadness and her longing into a whole vibe, and people felt that. Lana's influence proves that the most powerful form of influence is not always about what you say, it's about what you make people feel. Whether it's art, business, relationship, or your personal branding, if you can create a world that people want to step into, you don't just capture their attention, you capture their hearts, and that makes you unforgettable. Although we all recognize her influence now, when Lana first entered the mainstream, she wasn't exactly met with open arms. People didn't really know what to do with her. There were people who were confused, the internet was dragging her, and a lot of people thought her whole sad girl Americana vibe was a little bit too manufactured, a little bit too melancholic, and just overall too much. Her SNL performance was ripped apart. People didn't understand the way that she moved. They didn't understand the way that she sang or the way that she presented herself. But Lana didn't shift to seek validation. She didn't chase acceptance. Instead of changing to fit the mainstream, she doubled down on her artistic vision. She doubled down on her aesthetics, embracing the tragic, cinematic beauty that made her unique. She stayed in her world, and eventually, the world came around to her. The very thing she was mocked for, the melancholic, hyper-romanticized aesthetic, her moody storytelling, slow and sultry vocals, and vintage glamour, became her signature and made her a cultural icon. For example, the song Don't Call Me Angel was a collab between 3 major artists, but you know exactly when Lana's verse starts and when it ends. Her essence is that distinct. Lana's journey proves that real power comes from owning what makes you different, even when people don't get it at first. The world loves to label and criticize, but those who stay true to themselves often set the trends that others eventually follow. Instead of diluting yourself to fit in, amplify what makes you stand out. You might just turn your uniqueness into a movement like Lana. When you fully own your identity, especially the parts that people don't understand, you stop chasing approval and you start building your impact. Criticism only has power if you believe it. Yes, being able to hear constructive criticism and being able to embrace change when needed is important and holds a lot of value, but if you know who you are and you know what you're about, there's also a ton of value in sticking with it. The world will catch up, and if they don't, that's fine too. The right people will, just like it did for Lana, who built a cult following of people who felt seen in the world that she created. Through all the criticism, the scrutiny, and the noise, Lana never hardened. She didn't fight back with rage or try to prove herself by being louder. She stayed soft, still, dreamy, and somehow that made her even more influential. Lana is the blueprint for soft, feminine energy, and she made it powerful. She wasn't loud or aggressive. She didn't try to compete. She just existed in her own world, and somehow that made everyone pay attention. Sometimes we feel this pressure to be bold, to boss up, super confident, to be unbothered, and to always be clapping back. And while that energy has its place, Lana shows us that softness can be just as magnetic and that you don't have to perform power to have it. Her voice is soft, her style is feminine, her energy is quiet, but none of that made her any less impactful. If anything, that's what made her stand out. Softness doesn't mean weakness. It can actually be alluring, disarming. It draws people in without trying. It's mysterious, it's emotional, and if it's authentic, it's real, which really highlights the fact that you don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't have to be hard to be respected. Your softness is not something to get rid of. It's something that you can actually lean into. Lana's story isn't just about her success in music, but rather a commitment to herself and to a vision. She was able to create a world so personal yet so universal that people can't help but be drawn into. Her journey is a testament to the fact that when you fully own your aesthetics, your mood, and your perspective, when you refuse to water yourself down for the sake of mainstream appeal or societal approval, you don't just attract an audience. You create a cult following of people who genuinely support you and believe in you. If you're unfamiliar, she grew up as Hailey Baldwin, a model who later married Justin Bieber and became known as Hailey Bieber, Justin's wife, and the quote-unquote other woman who is constantly compared to his ex, Selena Gomez. From fan-fueled rumors and conspiracy theories, all the way to being labeled as a Nepo baby, she has been the center of several narratives that she never really asked for. And yet, despite the endless noise, Hailey continues to set trends, has since launched Rose, and is now covering Vogue. In a world that seems to want her to lose so badly, she just keeps on winning. She has mastered the art of being unbothered, and this is how you can as well. Let them talk. When people already have something to say about you, beat them to it and say it better. Say it funnier, say it first. This actually reminds me of when Trisha Paytas said that nobody can ever cancel me because I cancel myself first. And as chaotic and as controversial she can be sometimes, what Trisha says is quite true. When you own your narrative, even if it's messy or even if it's a joke, you take away the power that other people have to use it against you. And this is exactly what Hailey Bieber did in her recent What's in My Bag video. She didn't directly respond to the endless rumors about her stalking Justin, being obsessed with Selena, and having multiple burner accounts. But we all knew what she was referencing to when she pulled out what felt like a 85 phones from her bag and said that they were for stalking and creating fake accounts. She made it funny, she made it hers, and completely disarmed the narrative that people were trying to pin on her. Confidence isn't about clearing your name, it's about not needing to. Hailey even mentioned that early on in the interview, she used to try so hard to prove herself, but eventually realized that people will believe whatever they want, so why bother anymore? Paris Hilton is a great example of someone who did this as well. The world labeled her as the rich, clueless heiress, and instead of fighting it, she leaned into it. She played into the character and built an entire brand on it. People were laughing at her, and she was laughing her way to the bank because she was able to remain unbothered by what people were trying to use against her. And that's how you stay 10 steps ahead. If people are going to talk anyways, give them a version that works in your favor. Being unbothered, it doesn't mean that you never feel anything, because yes, you can feel angry, you can feel disappointed. It just means that you choose what's worth your emotional investment, because not everything deserves a reaction, because sometimes your peace is more valuable than your pride. But if you're not reacting to everything, how do you respond? And that leads us to our second lesson. Satire is a power move. By definition, satire is the use of humor, irony, or exaggeration to make a point or poke fun at something, usually to expose its flaws or criticize it. Humor disarms people, and it allows your point to land in a way that doesn't attack a belief, because people hate to admit that they are wrong. And so when you use satire, like how Hailey uses exaggeration to address rumors, it helps people understand how ridiculous certain rumors sound. Going back to the What's in My Bag video example, Hailey continues to pull out her perfume labeled Eau de Nepo and goes on to describe the smell as very vanilla and how it really does all the work for you without having to do anything. Hilarious. Or when she pulled out a bottle and introduced it as a love potion that her dad got her from a witch in the mountains to make a certain Canadian pop star fall in love with her. Hearing her say it out loud makes the rumors sound so unreal and just almost ridiculous. She leaned into all the gossip and turned it into a comedy bit. She made the rumors ridiculous, and by laughing at them, she took all the heat out of them. When you're the punchline on purpose, you stay in control because you get to dictate which direction you want to take it. And when you allow yourself to be the center of the joke and you're showing how you're not taking yourself too seriously, it makes you so magnetic. Yes, confidence is charming, but playful confidence is irresistible. And in this one video, it made Hailey so incredibly charming. It genuinely didn't feel like she was trying to prove something. It just felt like she was having fun, and in doing so, she reminded people why she's so likable. The Wizard Liz did this as well. When she was gaining popularity, there were, of course, a lot of people who loved her and appreciated the advice that she shares, but there were also people who loved to hate her and called her a narcissist. So how did she respond? She proudly wore it on a t-shirt and did a whole photo shoot with it, turning criticism into content. Absolutely genius. The world will try to embarrass you, but if you laugh first, you've already won. That's honestly the ultimate power move, to laugh louder than the hate whispers. The last point I want to highlight is the seduction of mystery. Even though she is a public celebrity and a whole CEO, Hailey keeps her private life private. Possibly it's because of her unbothered charm, where she doesn't feel the need to overshare to stay relevant. There's definitely value and power in that, because you get to keep some things to yourself. It is a form of protection, as people cannot ruin what they don't have access to, and it also creates room for people to wonder. And I think it is because she doesn't feed into the drama and really fully addresses the rumors that people wanted answers to, is the reason why people end up making up rumors and creating stories to answer the curiosity themselves. Even myself, if I'm texting a friend and they take a while to answer and I have nothing better to do, I will begin to start jumping to conclusions. It's human nature. We're wired to hate uncertainty, which is why our brain tries to reduce that discomfort of not knowing by creating a story, even if it's not entirely true. So when people like Hailey stays quiet or doesn't explain herself, it drives people crazy. The silent feels like a mystery that needs solving. And this is why I think this recent flip that Hailey did, whether it's strategic or because she was truly fed up with all the forced hate that was thrown on her and it being able to affect her family and her recent child, it really gave her her power back. She didn't over-explain explain, she references the rumor just enough to take control of the narrative and to still keep everyone guessing. She is still mysterious and she still seems quite unbothered, but it doesn't feel like avoidance. This reminds me a while ago of Ariana Grande, who did the same exact thing when people were calling her obnoxious and a quote-unquote diva. Instead of defending herself or avoiding these claims, she jumps in on the joke. On James Corden's Carpool Karaoke, she literally had him carry her into Starbucks and introduce herself like, "Hi, I'm Ariana Grande and I demand to be carried." And since then, everyone kind of just forgot about it. When you remain unbothered, keep private, and try to avoid drama, there will still be people who love to have something to say. And when you give them nothing to say because you rather stay private, you're not really bothered by having to be in the spotlight all the time, they will then begin to create stories. But what we learned from Ariana, Liz, Paris, and now Hailey is that sometimes instead of denying the rumors and instead of putting in all this effort to prove a point that people don't want to believe, it not only is more productive, but also funnier and kind of iconic to simply just go along with a joke and exaggerate it on purpose. The people who were talking, and to the extremes, the haters, they will lose interest because the common enemy that they were painting as a villain starts laughing with them. There's no longer tension and there's no more emotional payoff. They have nothing to use against you because you could care less. And while people were hating on Hailey, and these haters were getting all the attention because they had the theories and the stories which provide a conclusion to curiosity that people may have had, but we can see how Hailey ultimately had the last laugh, and quite honestly, now I'm intrigued as to how she is going to use this power that she has now. She has the world watching now. At the end of the day, you can scream and shout and give all the evidence that the sky is blue, but there will still be some people that will be convinced that the sky is green. And so Hailey shows us that the real power move isn't proving people wrong. It's refusing to be shaken in the first place. Whether it's staying private, laughing and playing along to the rumors, or flipping the script with your own story dripped in satire, the art of being unbothered is about owning the narrative without chasing validation. Hailey might not say much, but what she does say and how she carries herself, it really does speak volumes. I hope that this episode encourages you to stay unbothered, because in a world with so much noise, being able to go about your life and continue to win through it holds so much value. In the music industry, where artists may feel pressure to prove themselves with over-the-top, bold, dramatic statements, we've seen the era of Lady Gaga with the meat dress, Doja Cat dressing up as a literal cat for the Met Gala, and Miley Cyrus's rebellious bangers era. Shock value seems to have been a norm to grab attention, make headlines, and possibly drive fame, but Sabrina Carpenter seems to stand out without having to do any of that, and seems to be rising in fame by actually doing the opposite. She leans into this playful femininity in her looks, aesthetics, performance, and entire personality, where it's just light, fun, and overall just incredibly charming. This holds a lot of value in an industry that's filled with intensity, where looks, performances, and even songs can be a little bit extreme about gut-wrenching heartbreaks, violence, popping bottles, etc., because it's refreshing. And that's important because it comes to show that to make an impression and to be charming, you don't have to go to the extremes. Sometimes simply just enjoying yourself, being light, and having fun can be more refreshing and more effective in being magnetic and just attracting attention rather than demanding it. We mentioned how Sabrina Carpenter is able to stand out by doing the opposite of what seems to be industry norms and it being refreshing, but there is a difference between simply doing things differently and forcing yourself to be different just for the sake of it. In a world that really celebrates defying expectations and being different, being unique, many people may take this to the point of sometimes rejecting even parts of themselves. Take the stereotypes about blondes for an example. Many people might say that they are more fun, more bubbly, and girly. Some might go out of their way to disprove it, to be different different, but I feel like Sabrina Carpenter, she fully embraces it. She leans into the side of her personality with confidence, and because it's authentic, it resonates. This holds a lot of value because it comes to show that you don't have to abandon or feel ashamed or feel like you have to prove something if you fall into a certain stereotype just to be seen as different. I remember there was this girl that I used to be really close friends with. She's Asian, and I think that there's that stereotype that, Asians are good at math. And this girl, she was not only good at math, she was so incredibly smart, and it was something that I really admired about her. But whenever we're in groups, it felt like she went out of her way to act stupid, act like she pretended like she couldn't even do simple addition, or sometimes even to the extremes of pretending that she couldn't even tie her own shoelace just for the sake of being different and to get more attention. But it felt so weird because whenever it's just the two of us, she's like one of the smartest people that I know. When something is genuinely a part of who you are, rejecting it just for the sake of defying expectations and to deliver something that may be the opposite of a norm can feel like a performance. It creates this kind of disconnection, not only with those who want to support you, but also with yourself. Sometimes embracing it can feel even better and can turn out to be even more productive as well. Trying to be different doesn't make you more unique. It's because you are you and no one else is you, that is what makes you so unique. And I think that's what makes Sabrina so special. Yes, we can agree that Sabrina fits into certain stereotypes. She is feminine, playful, bubbly, and she is like many people in many ways, but at the same time, there is no one like her. She plays with her audience, makes them laugh, her lyrics are fun and witty, and you can just see whether it's her personal life or professional life, she just doesn't take herself too seriously in a way that feels so authentic. And as a result, she genuinely just someone having fun. And if you ever seen someone just skipping along and going about life with that type of energy, you just can't help but be like, wow, that person seems to be enjoying life. He or she seems like a lot of fun. I want to be friends with that person. I want what she's having. I want to be like her. Life is hard, yes. Achieving goals and becoming successful, however you define that, it requires effort, but life is also meant to be enjoyed. You deserve to live a life that brings you joy, and this is the type of playful femininity that I feel like Sabrina Carpenter has really mastered to bring joy to her life and something that we can adopt in our lives as well. But here's the thing, being soft doesn't mean being weak. Being playful doesn't mean being a pushover, and that's where Sabrina Carpenter's unbothered confidence comes in. Sometimes we confuse being feminine and being soft as being weak or fragile, but that's not the case at all. And Sabrina Carpenter is a perfect example of this. She's playful and doesn't take life too seriously, but also she makes it clear that her kindness isn't to be mistaken for weakness. When she was caught in the very public love triangle drama, including Olivia Rodrigo and Joshua Bassett, it would have been easy for her to fire back or do the opposite and sit back, do nothing, and just let the media define her. Instead of getting defensive, seeking revenge, or diving into the drama, she responded just enough to share her side and make a point. Her song Skin, it wasn't an attack, but it was a measured, thoughtful response, one that acknowledged the situation without compromising her dignity. She didn't engage in a messy back and forth. Instead, she controlled her own story and admitted in her song and even in interviews that under different circumstances, she and Olivia might have gotten along and would even be friends. She doesn't need to prove her worth by tearing others down, and that's what makes her so admirable. She easily could have, given the situation that Olivia was a rising star at the moment, and Sabrina had already been in the spotlight for a while, but she didn't. And this is something that I find so valuable. Oftentimes we hear the advice to quote unquote be the bigger person, to let the drama go if you're secure because you're better than that, and if you're confident it shouldn't even bother you. But the problem is, if you constantly disregard the disrespect or let things slide, you will make it seem like you're someone that can just be walked all over. Be kind to people, but be strict on your own boundaries. This love triangle situation and Sabrina's response was a perfect example of this. She remains unbothered, she's still her confident self, but she also makes it clear that even though she isn't about drama, she isn't afraid of drama. The way that she handled the situation situation wasn't messy, violent, or spiteful. It was just intentional and out of respect for her own self and her own boundaries. Sabrina Carpenter is proof that confidence doesn't have to be loud and femininity doesn't have to be fragile. Her career is a reminder that there's strength in knowing who you are and owning it. By fully embracing her playful, flirty, and self-assured persona, she has carved out a space where she can exist exactly as she wants, unapologetic, unbothered, and entirely unforgettable. And so if I could leave you with anything today, it's this: have fun. Life is hard, but you don't have to take yourself too seriously. You can afford to enjoy yourself, but never let that be an excuse to tolerate anything that compromises your boundaries and your self-worth. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you in the next one. And in the meantime, as always, stay hot. Bye.